Chapter 388. Xiao Feng, this Marvel family. What is their background? Flanders asked cautiously. Today, the things that happened really gave people a dreamy feeling, and everyone was very curious about this Marvel family. It was too sudden. They had never heard of it before, and now it suddenly appeared with more than 30 Sol Dolu. Doctor Strange seemed to be from the Marvel family too. This was already a superpower. Even if Flender asked about it, he still had to be careful. Dugubo on the side was also curious. He had never heard of the Marvel family behind Thanos before. It's very mysterious. I'm not very sure either. This time, Mr. Destroy should be taking me to see this Marvel family, Lin Feng said. If that's the case, then we won't stop you. I hope that when you have time in the future, you can come to the academy to see us. Flanders sighed. They knew that an outstanding person like Lin Feng would leave them one day, but they didn't expect it to be so sudden. In fact, this was also good. Now that Shrek's 7 monsters were in a coma, they wouldn't be too sad when they left. Dean, don't worry. Xiao San and I will definitely come back to see you. Didn't we agree before the competition? 3 years later, we will definitely come back to Shrek Academy. Lin Feng smiled. In the original work, Tang San and the others had agreed on a time of 5 years. Now that Lin Feng was here, he directly set a time of 3 years. After all, 5 years was too long. 3 years was neither too long nor too short. It was just right, and the name of the 3 years agreement sounded more pleasant. For example, the 3 years agreement was up, and the Dragon King had returned. There was also Xiao Yan's 3 years agreement to go to the Misty Clouds sect and divorce his wife. These big events were all in 3 years, so Lin Feng followed the trend and set a time of 3 years. That's true. I'm really looking forward to what you'll be like 3 years from now. With your cultivation speed, you might even have a chance to become a Soul Emperor. Flanders smiled, as if he could already see what everyone would be like 3 years from now. Lin Feng smiled and didn't say anything. He put Zhu Zhuqing down. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing whispered, "Feng go, don't go." When she was mumbling, her brows were still tightly furrowed. At that moment, Lin Feng thought that she was awake. After taking a look, he realized that Zhu Zhuqing was talking in his sleep. Even in her dream, she was telling him not to leave. She was probably having a nightmare about him leaving. Sigh. This girl. Lin Feng didn't know what to say. Wait 3 years. 3 years later, Zhu Zhuqing would be 17 years old. If she still had feelings for him by then, Lin Feng felt that this relationship could still be discussed. After helping Takechi tidy up her slightly messy hair, Lin Feng waited for her eyebrows to relax before standing up. He turned around and said, "Dean, Xiao Wu and I will take our leave first." With that, the immeasurable flower appeared in Lin Feng's hand. Then, he activated his first soul skill, Life Bloom. A green light filled the entire arena. Everyone's soul power and physical strength were rapidly recovering. Those who were originally unconscious were about to wake up. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, whose eyebrows were slightly raised, Lin Feng smiled and said, "See you later." With that, Lin Feng quickly left with Xiao Wu. In fact, Dugubo still had some questions in his heart, but he held them back. Just now, Lin Feng said that when the time came, Mr. Destroy would look for him again. He wasn't in a hurry. Just like that, Shrek's 7 monsters separated for the day. It would be difficult for them to reunite in a short period of time. Flanders and the others were escorted by Dugubo, so their safety should be fine. On Ning Rongrong's side, the 7 Treasures Glazed sect wasn't just for show. As the richest sect on the continent, their wealth was comparable to that of a country. It was fine if Bibi Dong threatened them in Martial Spirit City, but now that Dusty Heart had returned to the sect, Bibi Dong and the others didn't dare to act rashly. As for Tang San, there was no need to worry about him. Tang Hao wasn't a fool. He would protect him well. At this time, he could learn a lot by following Tang Hao. 3 years later, he would probably return to Shrek Academy. Lin Feng didn't have to deliberately look for him. There was no need. Right now, earning experience points was the most important thing for him. As he thought about this, Lin Feng flew straight toward the setting sun forest with Xiao Wu. The Icefire Yin Yang Well could be considered one of Lin Feng's bases. Now that Xiao Ying and Little Moon were there, Lin Feng was going to bring them over to move. Where would they move to? Stardow Great Forest, of course. It was where Daming and Erming were. Coincidentally, Xiao Wu would also be sent over. At the same time, he would also remodel that place. This way, it would be his second base. When he was healing everyone earlier, Lin Feng didn't care about Xiao Wu, mainly because he was too lazy to explain anything to her while flying. However, after flying for a while, Xiao Wu woke up on her own. Feng Gu. She had just woken up and was still a little confused. After shaking her head, she suddenly came to her senses and realized that she was in the air. She immediately cried out in surprise. This was an altitude of several thousand meters. The city looked like a toy from below. Xiao Wu was a rabbit, and she usually felt that climbing a tree was too high. Now that she suddenly appeared in the sky, it would be strange if she wasn't afraid. Seeing this, Lin Feng quickly landed on the ground. After a while, Xiao Wu came back to her senses and asked with a sobbing tone, Feng Gu, why were we flying just now? Where's third brother and the others? They've all left. We won't be able to see them for a while. There might be a huge change on the continent soon. I'll send you to Stardow Great Forest to hide. Lin Feng said first, then quickly told her about Dusty Heart, Tang Hao, and the others. In other words, we won't see third brother for 3 years? Xiao Wu said in a daze. Not really. If we spend some time looking, we should be able to find Xiao San. However, Houtyin Doloa might not welcome us too much. Lin Feng said. Why? Xiao Wu quickly asked. On one hand, it's because they are the Martial Spirit Palace's archenemy. They don't want to bring danger to us. On the other hand, it's because they have something to do and don't want us to disturb them. Lin Feng explained. Third brother won't do that. Xiao San won't, but his father will. Don't think too much. I'll take you to see 2 friends. Lin Feng interrupted Xiao Wu's question. He carried her with one hand and quickly flew at a low altitude in the forest. Flying at a low altitude was not much different from flying at a high altitude. However, compared to flying at a high altitude, there was a higher possibility of being discovered. But since Xiao Wu was afraid of heights, then he would fly at a low altitude. Nothing would happen anyway. At this moment, Xiao Wu finally came to her senses. She said with surprise, Feng Gu, you can fly. How did you do it? Lin Feng. Xiao Wu's reaction arc was a bit too long. And Feng Gu, what's your rank? When we were in the Martial Spirit City, I saw that the soul power of a titled battle pet warrior Doloa couldn't even affect you. Xiao Wu asked. Oh, you're quite observant. But why is your reaction arc so long? Lin Feng couldn't help but complain. Not everyone could pay attention to such small details. The fact that Xiao Wu could notice it meant that she was quite observant. It was just that this reaction arc was too much for him to complain about. You scared me just now. I've been wanting to ask you this for a long time. Xiao Wu mumbled. Needless to say, the feeling of flying through the forest at high speed was quite interesting. It wasn't the feeling of being scared to death in the air like before. Oh. Lin Feng nodded and then smiled. I have a soul skill that can fly. As for my rank, you can guess. I guess you're over rank 70. Xiao Wu made a bold guess. When they went to school together, they had just awakened. It had only been 7 years since then. Soul sages at rank 70 were equivalent to about 10 ranks in a year. If this guess was told, no soul master on the continent would believe it. Just take it that way. Lin Feng smiled and didn't object. Hearing this, Xiao Wu said in disbelief, Feng Gu, don't tell me you're already over rank 80. If she said that he was over rank 70, Feng Gu wouldn't object. Xiao Wu guessed that there were two possibilities. The first was that she guessed too low. The second was that Feng Guo was still perfunctory with her as before. Of these two possibilities, the second was more likely. However, Xiao Wu felt that it was more likely to be the first possibility. There was no basis at all. It was just her intuition. That's hard to say. Lin Feng still had the same smile on his face. Hearing this, Xiao Wu immediately felt that it wasn't the first possibility. It should be the second. Feng Gu was fooling her as before. He wasn't prepared to tell her the truth at all. She was thinking too much. It was impossible for a soul master to become a soul Dolua in 7 years. Otherwise, at this speed, he would probably be a titled Dolua by the age of 15. Then, he would become a god before the age of 30? Just thinking about it, this possibility was too low, so Xiao Wu rejected her previous guess. Feng Gu is lying again, Xiao Wu said. Ha ha. Lin Feng laughed and didn't say anything else. Just like that, the two of them advanced quickly. Before night fell, they arrived at the Sunset Forest. Feng Gu, who are the two friends you mentioned? Xiao Wu asked curiously. Weren't their friends only the people in the Shrek Academy? Now that Lin Feng said that he had friends in the Sunset Forest, Xiao Wu was very curious. You've seen one of them before. Lin Feng had already led Xiao Wu to the front of the formation. I've seen him before? Xiao Wu was instantly puzzled. She couldn't think of anyone she had seen before. With this doubt, she walked into the formation with Lin Feng. Then, she saw a big leopard pounce on Lin Feng, wagging its tail and licking him with its tongue. Isn't this Xiao Ying? Xiao Wu didn't see clearly at first, but she immediately reacted. That's right, it's Xiao Ying. Lin Feng rubbed Xiao Ying's head and smiled. Xiao Ying also noticed Xiao Wu at this time. He immediately ran over and stuck to her. Xiao Ying is actually a soul beast. Xiao Wu was in disbelief. After being in contact with Xiao Ying for so long, Xiao Wu really didn't realize this. She just felt an inexplicable closeness. Coupled with his cute appearance, she really liked hugging Xiao Ying. Xiao Ying's strength was still very strong. Because of his powerful shape-shifting ability and the fact that he didn't reveal any aura, he wasn't discovered. That's right, Xiao Ying is a soul beast, and with his current strength, he should be about to break through to a 100,000-year soul beast. Lin Feng smiled. Really? Xiao Wu's eyes shone with starlight. Looking at Xiao Ying, it was as if she was looking at her past self. As they spoke, Little Moon also ran over. The branches on his body shook incessantly, and leaves scattered all over the ground. The roots under his feet made the ground look like it had been plowed by cows, and his body exuded a sense of excitement. In the past, Lin Feng would reprimand Little Moon when he saw it plowing the ground. But now it was fine. It's a moon tree soul beast. Xiao Wu's eyes lit up. Yeah. Little Moon cried out twice, very excited. Plant-type soul beasts were generally very good at hiding. Even Xiao Wu hadn't seen many of them before. Now that she saw Little Moon, she felt very curious. It's called Little Moon, and it has a cultivation of more than 70,000 years. Lin Feng smiled. Little Moon had a good appetite, and Lin Feng had fed it with his life energy. Coupled with the energy from the ice-fire yin-yang well and the immortal medicine, it was able to rapidly increase its strength during this period of time. Feng Gu, you're so powerful you can actually subdue such strong soul beasts like Xiao Ying and Little Moon. Xiao Wu had a look of admiration. And this manner, it's really too beautiful. After taking a few glances, Xiao Wu suddenly curled her lips. Feng Gu, you always like to go outside, so you came here, right? Such a good place, but you didn't tell me and third brother. Xiao Wu, who was smiling just now, suddenly became unhappy. Women changed their faces really quickly. Lin Feng ridiculed in his heart, but he quickly said with an innocent face, Xiao San also knows about this place, didn't he tell you? Third brother also knows? Xiao Wu was stunned and soon said angrily, Third brother is too despicable, he actually didn't tell me. Seeing Xiao Wu instantly shift her hatred, Lin Feng thought to himself, Xiao San, this blame is on you. Lin Feng's main mission this time was to take Xiao Ying and Little Moon away, and go to the Star Do Great Forest together. Xiao Ying was fine, but it would be a little troublesome for Lin Feng to take Little Moon away. He would need to provide it with life force the entire time to ensure that it would not be injured. However, these were all small matters. It was just that it was relatively large and might be seen by others. At that time, it would cause some unnecessary effect. After all, anyone would be shocked to see a tree flying in the sky. However, on second thought, Lin Feng could choose to travel at night. At that time, the sky would be dark, and it would be difficult to be discovered if he flew high in the sky. Moreover, it would be dark, so Xiao Wu would not be too afraid of heights. After deciding to set off at night, Lin Feng went to the Icefire Yin-Yang well to deal with the immortal herbs. He mainly took away the older ones, leaving only some seeds here. The lake where Daming and Erming lived was actually a good treasure land. It might not be as good as the Icefire Yin-Yang well, but it was much better than ordinary places. It wouldn't be a big problem for Lin Feng to bring these immortal herbs over. Chapter 389. After making all the necessary preparations, Lin Feng waited until the sky darkened before he began his journey of moving house. Moving house was very simple. Lin Feng turned the 1,000-trickster ruler into a rope and hung Little Moon up. Then, he flew toward the Star Do Great Forest. Xiao Wu and Xiao Ying stood on Little Moon's head. It was as if they were on a plane. Moreover, they were sitting in the first-class cabin. High up in the sky, Xiao Wu was enjoying the cool breeze. Xiao Ying was lying beside her. Her little face was filled with contentment. Feng Go, this is great. Xiao Wu stretched out her hands and looked at the starry sky above her head. She smiled foolishly. Previously, when they were below, Xiao Wu was very reluctant when she heard that they had to fly in the sky again. Later, Lin Feng told her that they had nothing to do at night and that it would be fine to just look at the sky above. After some coaxing, she finally agreed to fly a little higher. Now it was the perfect place to have sex. I told you earlier. You didn't believe me. Lin Feng smiled. Needless to say, the starry sky in Dolua's world was really beautiful. There was no light pollution. Flying in the night sky with a gentle breeze blowing on one's face was like a dream in a sea of stars. It made one feel very comfortable. Suddenly, Xiao Wu seemed to have thought of something. She said, Feng Gu, are we really not going to see third brother for 3 years? They had lived together for more than 7 years. Suddenly, they were going to separate. They didn't even have time to say goodbye. Xiao Wu was still a little sad. It depends on the situation. When the time comes, I'll go out with Mr. Destroy. If we meet Xiao San, I'll bring him to the Star Do Great Forest to look for you. Xiao Wu was stunned. Then, she said with anticipation, Feng Gu, I want to go out with Mr. Destroy. Can you bring me along? A Wu, Xiao Ying also roared. The little moon at the bottom also let out a squeak, and the tree branches swayed incessantly. No, 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 the 3 of you can't go. Mr. Destroy only wants me. Lin Feng waved his hand. It was much faster for him to farm EXP alone. If he brought along a few burdens, wouldn't he be looking for trouble? I see. Xiao Wu's tone was filled with disappointment. Lin Feng continued, all of you better train hard and improve yourselves when the time comes, especially Xiao Wu. Don't slack off. I'll get Daming to supervise you. You have to become a soul sage within 3 years. That way, I'll take you out to play when I have the chance. Otherwise, you'll have to stay in the forest for the next 3 years. In truth, before becoming a soul emperor, one needed to come into contact with many people in order to increase their strength. However, Xiao Wu had eaten the immortal herb, so she was no longer restricted. Even if she was in the forest, she could still cultivate. And now, Xiao Wu estimated that she would become a soul king in half a month. According to her current cultivation speed, it wouldn't be easy for her to become a soul sage in 3 years. However, as long as she worked hard, there was still a chance. Ah? Feng Ge, don't. Can you not let Daming supervise me? Erming can also supervise me. Xiao Wu had a bitter look on her face. Although Daming and Erming were both her younger brothers, their personalities could be said to be completely different. Daming liked to be quiet and steady. He usually cultivated, and he broke through to become a 100,000-year soul beast earlier than Xiao Wu. Erming's personality was similar to hers. He was more lively and liked to move around. He was still far from becoming a 100,000-year soul beast. If it was Daming supervising, it would definitely be very strict. However, if it was Erming, it would be very relaxed, and the two of them would even play together. No! Lin Feng rejected directly. Suddenly, Xiao Wu thought of something and asked, Feng Ge, how do you know about Daming and Erming? She didn't realize it before, but now that she thought about it, how did Lin Feng know Daming and Erming? Mr. Destroy has interacted with them before. He told me about it, Lin Feng answered. Back then, Lin Feng used the identity of Thanos to go to the Star Do Great Forest to farm experience for a period of time. They could be considered to know each other. However, Lin Feng naturally wouldn't reveal the identity of Thanos, so he could only find an excuse. The identity of Thanos was Lin Feng's ultimate disguise. He wouldn't tell anyone. He only had one purpose, and that was to be his own life-saving substitute. The dangerous things would be done by Thanos, and his real identity, Lin Feng, would always be hidden. Although Lin Feng hadn't seen any plot of a god coming down to kill people in Dolua, because of his arrival, who knew if something different would happen? Therefore, his Slayer Overlord clone was to guard against this kind of thing. If one day the god went crazy and came down to kill him, Thanos would be the layer of insurance. Maybe all of this was Lin Feng's imagination, but he only had one life. Lin Feng could be more prudent. Oh, I see. Xiao Wu nodded. After that, she still wanted to fight for an opportunity to be lazy. She said coquettishly, Feng Ge, can you lower your requirements? Can I become a Soul Emperor in 3 years? If you want to become a Soul Sage, even third brother can't break through. I'm weaker than him, so it's even more impossible. Don't think about such nonsense. Xiao San might not be able to become a Soul Sage in 3 years, but he'll definitely be stronger than you. Maybe you won't be able to beat him even when you become a Soul Sage, Lin Feng said casually. Tang San was now a rank 54 Soul King, much stronger than in the original work. Furthermore, his martial soul had evolved. In addition to the increase in his control of immortal herbs and soul power, his conditions were much better than in the original work. If he cultivated using Tang Hao's closed-door method, he should be able to break through to become a Soul Emperor in half a year. When that time came, he would absorb a 50,000-year soul ring and easily reach rank 63 or above. In the remaining 2 years, Tang San would probably go to the city of Massacre at Tang Hao's request. Although that place was strange, the current Tang San was even more strange than in the original work. He had even mastered the mysterious technique of combining hidden weapons and soul skills. Soul masters couldn't use soul skills over there, but hidden weapons with soul skills were very useful. With Tang San's hidden weapons, it wouldn't be long before Tang San could walk out of the city of Massacre. When that happened, Tang San's strength would increase exponentially. Humph! I don't believe it. When I become a Soul Sage, I'll definitely beat up third brother, Xiao Wu said angrily. Lin Feng's provocation ignited Xiao Wu's fighting spirit. She wanted to break through to become a Soul Sage and teach Tang San a lesson. I'll wait and see. Lin Feng laughed and didn't say anything else. Just as Lin Feng brought Xiao Wu and the others to move, Dusty Heart and the others rushed back to the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. The entire sect is on alert. If you discover anything unusual, immediately report it. Inform all the elders to come for a meeting. Ning Fengji called for a meeting the moment he arrived at the sect. The meeting was very simple. There were only 2 points. First, everyone was to be armed and ready for battle. Second, start contacting the major powers of the Heaven Do Empire and prepare to form an alliance. The 7 Treasures Glazed sect's prestige was still very terrifying. It had a lot of influence on the entire continent. In particular, the sect's wealth was comparable to that of a country. It wasn't a joke. They had shares in all the soul dueling arenas on the continent. If he wanted to take the lead and go against the Martial Soul Hall, he really had a way to make it difficult for the Martial Soul Hall in the Heaven Do Empire. After all, money was an ability that allowed him to do whatever he wanted. Of course, in the end, it would be a lose-lose situation. However, the Martial Spirit Palace had declared war on the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. The 7 Treasures Glazed sect wasn't made of dough. They had to let the Martial Spirit Palace know their power. Ning Rongrong had been listening to the conversation from the side. She had grown up now. Ning Fengji felt that she should listen to this when the sect's survival was at stake. The entire 7 Treasures Glazed sect was on alert for the night. They gathered all their strength together to prevent the Martial Soul Hall's elders from launching a sneak attack. Ning Fengji heaved a sigh of relief when the sun rose. He sent some soul sages out to gather the major powers of the Heaven Do Empire to discuss how to resist the Martial Soul Hall. In the afternoon, 2 people appeared outside the sect just as the elders were about to return. They didn't hide their auras. Dusty Heart recognized them immediately. Yu Guan and Gui Mei. These 2 old fogies came over after just 1 day. They even swaggered over. It didn't seem like they were here to pick a fight. Otherwise, it would be too foolish of them to swagger into the sect. In fact, the 2 of them had a 30,000-year soul bone in their hand. It was a skull bone that was extremely suitable for a soul master like Ning Rongrong. Their purpose was to apologize to the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. Ning Fengji didn't reject this, but he wasn't in a hurry to accept it either. He was a smart person. After a short conversation, he quickly realized that he had 2 choices now. The first was that he could find an ally, especially the Marvel family. Under such circumstances, he could contact the Clear Sky sect. Even if their alliance became enemies with the Martial Soul Hall, it wouldn't be a problem. There was no need to pay attention to the Martial Soul Hall's negotiation. However, the second situation was that he couldn't form an alliance with the Marvel family. In that case, the 3 upper sects might be able to rely on the Heaven Do Empire to resist the Martial Soul Hall. However, it would be useless except for both sides suffering losses. Therefore, it was better to choose peace. Just as Ning Fengji was thinking, Gui Mei told him that Thanos hadn't returned to Heaven Do City yet, and that the Marvel family had disappeared. The Martial Soul Hall was indeed worthy of being called the Martial Soul Hall. In just 1 day, their intelligence network had already reported the situation of the important cities on the entire continent. In these places, they didn't receive any news about the Marvel family. It seemed that this force had really gone into hiding. Ning Fengji only used the information provided by the Martial Soul Hall as a reference. He didn't believe it at all. He was waiting for the sect elders to bring back the feedback of the various forces, especially the Shrek Academy. Therefore, he delayed Gui Mei and the others and waited for the elders to return. Yu Guan and Gui Mei didn't panic. They were here to negotiate, so they didn't have to worry about their safety. On one hand, their powers were guaranteed. Their soul fusion skills might not be able to defeat Dusty Heart and Gu Rong, who were both enhanced by Ning Fengji, but they would be able to get away with it. On the other hand, they had the Martial Soul Hall as their backer. If they were killed, then it wouldn't be a big deal. At most, Bibi Dong and the others would take revenge. However, if they were killed during negotiations, then Bibi Dong would even be able to ask the worshippers to step in. Those titled Dolual were all extremely powerful beings, and no one would be able to stop them if they were to attack the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. It was because of this that the two of them weren't panicking in the slightest, even though they were in the Seven Treasures Glazed sect headquarters. Just as they were drinking tea, the elders that Ning Fengji had sent out earlier returned one after another. As for the other powers, Ning Fengji wanted to hear more about the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan and Shrek Academy. The former was smart enough to recognize the current situation and immediately agreed to the alliance. As for the Shrek Academy, Dugubo naturally supported the alliance, but it also meant that Thanos wouldn't be coming to Heavendo City in the near future. The Marvel family also wouldn't be appearing in the near future. This news was exactly the same as what Yu Guan and Gue Mei had said. In this way, the choice was very clear. Ning Fengji accepted the Soul Bone. For the time being, it wasn't appropriate for them to clash with the Martial Soul Hall. It was better for them to endure and observe the situation. This time, they could obtain a suitable Soul Bone for their daughter. Even if they had to suffer a little in the past, it was still worth it. Furthermore, Ning Fengji believed that the situation on the continent would change. During the tournament, didn't Doctor Strange say that he wanted to challenge the entire continent? He was also a member of the Marvel family. Although this power had disappeared for a short time, it would probably appear in the world of Soul Masters again soon. When that time came, when this power stirred up the world of Soul Masters, all the things that couldn't be seen before would surface. Gue Mei and Yu Guan left. After leaving the Seven Treasures Glazed sect, they went directly to the Martial Soul Temple in Heavendo City. They met Ing Luan, then went straight to find the Snowy Night Emperor. They talked for more than an hour. How the conversation went was unknown, but in the end, the two of them left with satisfied expressions. Before leaving Heavendo City, the two of them reorganized Heavendo City's intelligence network. Dugubo didn't go anywhere. He quietly guarded the Shrek Academy. It was unrealistic for the Martial Soul Hall to attack the Heavendo Empire at this time, but there was a certain chance that they would send someone to assassinate them. Therefore, Dugubo specially stayed here to protect Dai Mubai and the others. Under his protection, the Shrek Academy was very safe. During this time, Zhu Zhuqing and Dai Mubai quietly left. Now that the continent was in turmoil, the two of them had to bear the pressure of their families. It was time for them to go back and deal with it. As for Oscar and Ma Hongjun, they weren't in a hurry to leave. Instead, they stayed in the academy for a while to observe the situation. They originally wanted to join the Tang sect, but now that Tang San was gone, they could only wait. A few days later, Ning Rongrong went to Heavendo City with Dusty Heart and found out about the current situation in the academy. She was a little sad because Lin Feng, Mu Bai, and the others suddenly left without saying goodbye. Of course, this was all in the future. At this time, Lin Feng had already settled down in the Star Do Great Forest. Chapter 390. It had been a day since Lin Feng and the others arrived at the Star Do Great Forest. With Xiao Wu around, Daming and Erming were very welcoming of their arrival. Little Moon settled down in a valley by the lake, and Xiao Ying was also there. Lin Feng planted all the immortal herbs by the lake where Daming was, and then built a small courtyard here. It was mainly built for Xiao Wu. For the next period of time, Xiao Wu would live here. She couldn't live in a cave, right? The house was built very quickly. Erming and Xiao Ying came over to help, and by evening, it was finished. Go in and take a look. Do you like it? If you don't like it, you can change it again. Lin Feng said to Xiao Wu. The latter ran in with a look of anticipation, and then quickly ran out. She said excitedly, I like it, I like it. Thank you, Feng Go. It's good that you like it. Lin Feng nodded and smiled. Feng Go, bring me along when you go out tomorrow. I'll definitely be very obedient and won't run around. Xiao Wu came over and held Lin Feng's hand, and said with a look of hope. Ever since Lin Feng said in the morning that he was leaving tomorrow, Xiao Wu had been saying that she wanted to leave with him. This was actually the third time Xiao Wu had said this today. Lin Feng didn't say anything and hid her head, saying, "Don't think about it. Cultivate well. I'll come back once in a month at the latest. The next time I come back, if you can become a Soul King, I'll bring you out to play for a day. If you're still rank 49, then don't think about going out for 3 months." Xiao Wu touched her head with an aggrieved look. Originally, Xiao Ying also wanted to let Lin Feng bring it out, but looking at the situation, it was better to forget it. Just like that, the night passed quickly. The next morning, Thanos appeared and personally took Lin Feng away. Before he left, Lin Feng reminded Xiao Wu to cultivate well, which made her very worried. At this point, the burden in Lin Feng's heart had been completely lifted. In the following period of time, it was time for him to properly farm experience. Hasn't the Martial Spirit Palace been searching for the Marvel family recently? At that time, he will run all over the continent, using the Marvel family's name. Let's see how you can find him. With that in mind, Lin Feng's first stop was the Star Luo Empire's thriving Dragon City. This was the northernmost border city of the Star Luo Empire, and it wasn't far from the Star Do Great Forest. The Yuji clan seemed to be located here. Other than that, there were also many Soul Master organizations here. There were also quite a few people on the same level as Soul Doloa. Lin Feng went there, and he should be able to farm tens of millions of experience points. If he planned well, he could even attack the Martial Spirit Palace in thriving Dragon City and attract the people of the Martial Spirit Palace over, and he could farm experience points again. If he was lucky, it would not be a problem to earn hundreds of millions of experience points in a city. Even if he was unlucky and did not succeed in fishing, there should be tens of millions. Just like that, with a sense of anticipation, Lin Feng flew quickly to thriving Dragon City. At the same time, on the mountain road west of the Star Do Great Forest, Tang Hao and Tang San rushed in the direction of the Heaven Do Empire, one in front and one behind. Both of them were rushing in silence. They did not say much, and the atmosphere was a little dull. After Tang San woke up yesterday, Tang Hao was very excited and talked a lot with him. Today, he was going to take Tang San to a place. It was the place where Tang Hao had been living in seclusion all these years. It was in a mountain range, inside the Haagen-Dazs Kingdom. The specific location was west of Notting City, in the large mountain range behind the Mont Forest. Because the terrain of this mountain range was very complicated, there were not many soul beasts inside. Very few soul masters came in, and even if they did, they would usually wander around the periphery. Tang Hao called this mountain range Iron Mountain Range because Tang San's mother, Iron, was buried here. He took Tang San there for no other reason than to let him quickly improve his strength. There was a big waterfall here, and he wanted to use this big waterfall to train Tang San. As for Iron, Tang Hao decided to wait until Tang San's strength was a little stronger. But speaking of which, Tang Hao was very shocked by Tang San's current strength. What a joke, a 14-year-old Soul King, even he could not reach this kind of strength back then. Now, Tang San's achievements were simply unprecedented. However, this was not what shocked him the most, because Tang San told him that Lin Feng might already be a Soul Emperor. A 14-year-old Soul Emperor, Tang Hao was stunned at that time, and he even said that it was impossible. However, when Tang San told him about the control of soul power, the immortal grass, and knocking over a Soul King with one punch, although Tang Hao did not see it with his own eyes, he was already 80% convinced in his heart. Lin Feng's achievements, no matter which one it was, were astonishing. Now, all of them were gathered on one person. Tang Hao could only say that this Lin Feng's talent was really too terrifying. Especially behind him stood the incomparably mysterious Marvel family. Thanos, Doctor Strange, and other powerful titled Doloa were all members of this family. They were really too strong. To be honest, if he had not watched Lin Feng grow up in the village, Tang Hao would have suspected that Lin Feng had some other identity. But because of this, he was even more curious about why a powerhouse like Thanos would be related to Lin Feng. Tang San told him about the soul-hunting forest, but Tang Hao did not believe these words. He was only an assistant for a period of time, and he was taken care of like this? It was really hard to believe. There must be other reasons. However, Tang Hao did not ask too much. Lin Feng and Tang San were on good terms, and they even became sworn brothers. This was a good thing. No matter what Lin Feng's achievements were in the future, he probably would not do anything bad to Tang San. Now, he wanted to let Tang San's strength quickly increase so that he could catch up to Lin Feng's footsteps. Longxing City was a large city at the border of the Star Luo Empire. Its trade was very prosperous, and it was about the same size as Soto City. The branch halls in Martial Spirit City were all led by Sol Dolu. Although he was not Sol Doluo, who was a platinum bishop, he was still extremely powerful. After Lin Feng arrived in the city, he did not start fighting like a rash person. His clones scattered out and began to wander around the city. On one hand, he wanted to understand the situation in the city and the distribution of the various forces. On the other hand, he wanted to sense the clones that he had left behind earlier to find the forces behind them. The communication efficiency of Dolua's world was relatively low. It would take Lin Feng a few days to figure out the situation of these forces. And not only in the city, there were also many forces outside the city, and their numbers were the majority. After all, it was too expensive to buy land in the city. Not all forces were so rich. Many foreign forces would choose to buy land around the city. The Yuji family was still quite rich. Their family's land could be seen in the city. Lin Feng did not feel anything special about this. This family's ability was to build houses. Other than that, their Soul Master's defense was strong. Lin Feng did not give them any special treatment. After he investigated the situation in Longxing City clearly, he began to implement his challenge plan. The plan was very simple. To sum it up, it was fast. Blitzkrieg. After some investigation, they found out that there were 33 Soul Sages and 8 Soul Dolua in the vicinity of Longxing City. Lin Feng wanted to fight with everyone within an hour, including the 3 Soul Sages from the Martial Spirit Branch Hall and 1 Soul Dolu. If he did not have the 1,000 Trickery Rulers clones, it would be very difficult for Lin Feng to carry out the Blitzkrieg. But now that he had the clones, it was very easy. Lin Feng did 13 things at once. 13 people, including his main body, directly found 13 target. Without saying a word, he rushed up to fight. At the same time, he shouted, "A certain Soul Master from the Marvel family is here to challenge." This certain Soul Master, Lin Feng shouted randomly. Anyway, it was just a name. It was mainly to announce that he was from the Marvel family. Then, each battle lasted for about 10 minutes and changed according to the actual situation. Under such circumstances, in an hour, all the Soul Sages and above in Longxing City and the surrounding forces fought with Lin Feng. He gained more than 30 million experience points, and at the same time, beat up the Martial Spirit Branch Hall. For a time, the whole city was boiling. The Marvel family actually appeared. At this time, the Martial Spirit Branch Hall was searching for the Marvel family with all their strength. The entire continent was searching. These days, there were arrest warrants for Thanos and the others everywhere. But the Marvel family actually committed a crime here and beat up all the experts in the city. The Martial Spirit Branch Hall Master reported this news to the Martial Spirit City without saying a word. But at this time, the Soul Masters in Longxing City were a little confused. Logically speaking, this kind of challenge should be a counterattack by the Marvel family. So many Soul Masters were dispatched, but why didn't anyone from the Martial Spirit Branch Hall die? And one more thing. Why did the Marvel family challenge the Soul Masters of all the major forces in Longxing City? Was there any special meaning to this? And just as the whole city was in heated discussion, Lin Feng had already left clones everywhere in the city to pay attention to the changes in the situation. This place was not far from the martial spirit city, and the news spread quickly. Lin Feng made a move in the morning, and people from the martial spirit city would probably come in the afternoon. If there were less than 4 titled Doluo, Lin Feng would choose to make a move and gain experience points. And if there were many people, then he would still have to run. After all, he couldn't beat them at all. And his clone. Lin Feng found that the last self-destruction had left a big impression on him. Although the clone was recondensed within 2 days, its strength was not as good as before. When it came out, it was only 50% of its previous strength. In the next few days, it had recovered to about 80%. If it wanted to fully recover, it would probably take about a month. The self-destruction of the clone still affected its strength, and Lin Feng felt that if it self-destructed too many times, it might affect the quality of the 1000 trickery ruler. So at this time, Lin Feng felt that it was better to treat the clone well. It was best to treat it as important as the main body, so that it wouldn't be easy to get into trouble. Just as he was thinking about this, it was soon noon. Martial Spirit City, Pope Palace, in the study. Bibi Dong was formulating the next step of the Martial Spirit Branch Hall. She sometimes gritted her teeth, sometimes frowned, and looked like she had encountered a difficult problem. Pope, there is news from the Longxing City Branch Hall that there are people from the Marvel family. Suddenly, Ghost Demon's voice came from outside the study. When Bibi Dong heard the words Marvel family, her eyes lit up and she quickly said, "Come in. Tell me what's going on." Ghost Demon walked in and reported, "This morning, Longxing City." Very quickly, Gue Mei told him everything. Bibi Dong didn't hesitate and said directly, "Call Yueguan and Qinyun, let's go." "Pope, are you going out too?" Ghost Demon was stunned. "Do you have a problem?" Bibi Dong glanced at him, her eyes flashed, and a huge aura exuded. Ghost Demon was shocked and quickly said, "Your subordinate doesn't dare." In fact, the Pope was generally not allowed to leave the martial spirit city, but looking at Bibi Dong's posture, it was obvious that he couldn't stop her, so Ghost Demon didn't stupidly say anything. At this time, after responding, he immediately went out to call for people. 3 minutes later, Bibi Dong took Ghost Doluo, Chrysanthemum Doluo, and Qinyun Doluo, a group of 4 people, and went straight to Longxing City. In Longxing City, Lin Feng had just finished eating the delicacies in the snack street. Suddenly, at the north gate, Lin Feng's doppelganger felt a few powerful and familiar auras, which were rapidly approaching Longxing City. After sensing for a while, Lin Feng left Longxing City without saying a word and rushed to the south. Good lord, this Bibi Dong actually came personally, and even brought Ghost Doluo, Chrysanthemum Doluo, and Qinyun Doluo. This Bibi Dong was really meticulous. The 3 people he brought were all strong people who could control people. Qinyun Doluo was needless to say. He was a powerful control type titled Dolu. The main thing was Yueguan and Ghost Demon. The 2 of them could release powerful martial soul fusion skills. If Lin Feng dared to rush up, he would probably be killed by Bibi Dong. After all, Bibi Dong was too strong at this time, probably in the trial of God. Wouldn't he be courting death if he went up? So running directly to the south was the most correct decision. He went to the next city, and prepared to repeat the same trick to see if he could attract Bibi Dong again. If he could attract him, he would run. If Bibi Dong didn't come, he could farm experience points. Lin Feng's subsequent cities were all disorderly. In this way, it was difficult for the Martial Spirit Palace to guess which city he was going to next. Otherwise, if he challenged one after another, his route would soon be deduced. Bibi Dong only needed to gather the power of the Martial Spirit Palace, and then wait for him in the city. As long as they waited, Lin Feng would probably lose a layer of skin even if he didn't die. And just as Lin Feng went south, Bibi Dong and the others also came to the Martial Spirit Palace of Longxing City. Next, that was to understand the situation and then capture the people of the Marvel family. But at this time, Lin Feng had already left here, and Bibi Dong's capture operation had failed from the beginning. After a night, the Martial Spirit Palace searched the whole city, but found nothing. Bibi Dong couldn't keep searching here. There were still many things she needed to do in the Martial Spirit City. She left at noon the next day. However, Ghost Demon and the others would continue to search for 3 days. Chapter 391. The large-scale search by the Martial Spirit Palace was very imposing, and the various forces in Longxing City were very cooperative. Although the Marvel family did not kill anyone, they suddenly found the powerhouses of all the forces in a short period of time. This intelligence ability and the dozen or so elusive masters made all the forces very wary. After all, they did not kill anyone this time, but what about next time? Even if he didn't kill anyone every time, not everyone would be able to endure a sudden fight like this. At the same time, the news that Doctor Strange threatened to challenge the entire continent spread. This news was originally spreading, but it was only limited to some major forces. Now that this happened in Longxing City, the whole continent was spreading it. In the battle in Martial Spirit City, Doctor Strange self-destructed and died. Not many people knew about this, only a few elders of the Martial Spirit Palace knew. So now that something had happened, it was basically Doctor Strange's doing. But Bibi Dong guessed that it was most likely sent by Thanos. After all, the only titled Dolua in the Marvel family were Doctor Strange and Thanos. The former was dead, so it could only be the latter's orders. However, the other party only challenged and did not kill anyone. To be honest, Bibi Dong was very puzzled. At this time, the Marvel family took action. Logically speaking, there were only 2 possibilities. First, they attacked the Martial Spirit Palace in various places to avenge Doctor Strange. Second, they stirred up the muddy waters in the world of Soul Masters and then caused chaos to attract the elders of the Martial Spirit Palace so that the Marvel family had a chance to ambush and kill these elders. In summary, these 2 points were to take revenge on the Martial Spirit Palace. Other than that, Bibi Dong felt that there was no other possibility. As for the rumor of Doctor Strange's challenge, wasn't this funny? He was dead, how could he challenge? Moreover, the Marvel family lost a titled Dolu. They did not do anything and just went to challenge. It was impossible for such a meaningless thing to happen. But on the other hand, if the Marvel family wanted to take revenge on the Martial Spirit Palace, killing was better than not killing. After all, the more Soul Masters killed, the more chaotic the world of Soul Masters would be and the more opportunities they would have for revenge. And yet, Qin Haodong had left after a trivial challenge, just like how Thanos had gone around challenging Dolu. Bibi Dong was confused. However, it was useless for her to be confused. The original plan of the Martial Spirit Palace was completely disrupted because of the appearance of the Marvel family. Now, she had to come up with another feasible plan in a short time. Otherwise, the Martial Spirit Palace's plan might go wrong. Just as Bibi Dong returned to Martial Spirit City, the incident in Longxing City swept across the entire continent in a very short period of time. Countless Soul Masters and even ordinary people were talking about this Marvel family. The royal families of the 2 empires also noticed this mysterious power. Now, the Continental Elite Academy tournament had ended, and Martial Spirit City had undergone a huge change. On top of that, there was the Marvel family's declaration of war and the incident in Longxing City. It was as if a large stone had been thrown into a calm lake. The entire world of soul cultivators was thrown into turmoil. At the same time, the name of the Marvel family instantly resounded throughout the continent. It was mysterious and powerful, causing all Soul Masters and ordinary people to have wild imaginations. In the Shrek Academy, Ning Rongrong happened to be escorted by Dusty Heart. She wanted to meet Lin Feng, Tang San and the others. But after seeing Oscar and Ma Hongjun, the others left one after another. Regarding this, Ning Rongrong was very sad. She cried in the room in the middle of the forest. No matter how Dusty Heart comforted her, it was useless. Oscar and Ma Hongjun were also at a loss. They didn't know what to say. They were actually very sad. After all, they were good brothers who had lived together for so long. But they had already been sad before, so they were better now. Rongrong, don't cry. Didn't you guys agree to meet again in 3 years? I believe your third brother and Feng Go will come back. Dusty Heart said with some heartache. Yes, Feng Go and the others will definitely come back. Oscar nodded. When Feng Go and the others left, they specifically told the dean. They will definitely keep their word. Ma Hongjun also said. Whoa, 3 years is too long. Take Chi, Xiao Wu, Feng Gu and the others are not here for so long. Ning Rongrong looked sad. Dusty Heart only felt a headache. At this moment, Flanders ran over with a happy face. Lord Dusty Heart, good news! What good news? Everyone looked over curiously. I just got the news from the royal family. The people of the Marvel family made a big commotion in Longxing City. The Martial Spirit Palace launched a search. After talking for a few minutes, Flender told him the general situation of the matter. Dean, was it Mr. Destroy who did it? Is there any news about Feng Go? Is he okay? Ning Rongrong asked quickly. This should be Mr. Destroy. As for little Feng, he should be by Mr. Destroy's side. Nothing will happen to him. Flanders said. He was not worried about Lin Feng and Tang San. They were both protected by the extremely powerful titled Doluo. Basically, nothing would happen to them. Dusty Heart touched Ning Rongrong's head. Silly girl, that Thanos is stronger than me. The Marvel family is even more mysterious. With his protection, nothing will happen to your Feng Go. After saying that, he looked up at Flanders. The Marvel family made a move and caused the Martial Spirit Palace to conduct a large-scale search. It seems that the world of the Soul Masters is really going to change. Dusty Heart was still very happy because what happened today could greatly reduce the pressure on the Heaven Do Empire. The Martial Spirit Palace must first solve the problem of the Marvel family. Otherwise, they could not make any other plans. In this way, the Seven Treasures Glazed sect had more buffer time. They did not need to be on tenterhooks for a short time and had more room to maneuver. At this time, he had to bring the news back to the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. He did not delay too much. After saying goodbye to Flanders, he took Ning Rongrong back. Ma Hongjun and Oscar were also very happy when they heard the news. In their hearts, this was equivalent to Lin Feng shouting to them through the air. It was as if he was saying, "Don't worry, I'm doing very well." Unfortunately, Tang San could not hear this news. At this time, he and Tang Hao had already arrived at their destination, in front of a huge waterfall. Tang Hao sealed his soul power, soul rings, and even martial soul so that he could only use his own strength to train. This kind of cultivation method was very simple, but it was also very hard work. After all, most of a soul master's strength came from their martial soul and soul power. Soul masters with beast martial souls were a little better as their physical foundation was much stronger. But soul masters with tool martial souls were different. Their bodies would be much weaker. However, Tang San was more special. He had a few soul bones and his soul rings were also very strong. His physical fitness was greater than a top-grade beast martial soul. At this time, even if his soul power and martial soul were sealed, he was still very strong. Tang Hao also knew this, so he added extra weights to Tang San's body to let him achieve the desired training effect. Under such circumstances, Tang San had a very difficult first day. However, he was also very hard-working. His goal was to catch up to Lin Feng, and he was working hard for it. At the same time, Xue Qinghe was cultivating in Heaven Do City. He had also heard about the Marvel family, and because of his channels of information, He knew more than the people outside, even more than Bai Dong. Only fighting and not killing people, that was definitely Thanos's behavior. The incident in Longxing City was definitely done by Thanos. Xueqinghe dared to guarantee it. And after spending so much time together, he finally understood. Thanos specifically looked for people to fight, definitely not just because he liked to fight, but also to improve his combat ability. There might be a part of the reason, but the fundamental purpose should not be this. There was definitely a deeper reason. In fact, Xueqinghe was also curious about these reasons, but after so long, he still could not figure it out. However, one thing he knew was that Thanos might not be doing this to take revenge on the Martial Spirit Hall, but simply to find someone to fight. If he told this news to Bibi Dong, she might make a completely different decision from what she was doing now. However, Xueqinghe did not do so. She still wanted to follow Thanos. Although he could not practice Thanos at this time, he had a goal in his heart after talking to Steve last time, and that was to find a way to safely go to see God's Island. It would be extremely difficult for him to find a way to go to see God's Island on the mainland. However, Xueqinghe would not give up. He would strive to find it within 3 years. This way, when Lin Feng returned 3 years later, he would have a bargaining chip in his hand. Right, this 3-year deadline was something he learned from Oscar and Ma Hongjun when he visited the Shrek Academy the day before yesterday. After all, Xueqinghe's previous actions were very friendly in the eyes of Ma Hongjun and the others. Speaking of which, Xueqinghe could be regarded as one of their friends, so they told him about the 3 years. Just as the whole mainland was talking about the Longxing City incident, Lin Feng continued to walk south. He passed by several cities on the way, but he did not stop and continued to walk. Finally, at noon the next day, he stopped in a city called Red Maple. This place was more than 400 kilometers away from Martial Spirit City. Lin Feng walked and stopped along the way. In the end, he saw that the scenery here was better and there were red maple trees everywhere, so he chose this place. Next, the situation was the same as in Longxing City. Lin Feng spent a few days here to explore the situation of the forces. During this time, he could see that many people in the city were discussing Longxing City, but most of these people were watching a show. After all, Longxing City was too far away from here. They never thought that the Marvel family would come to their place. However, Lin Feng really came. Today, Lin Feng had a clear understanding of the situation in Red Maple City. The overall strength was not as strong as Longxing City. There were only 18 soul sages and 6 soul dolua. However, in a valley near the city, Lin Feng sensed the fragment of the 1,000-trick ruler there. After searching carefully, he found a hidden force. He found a titled dolua inside. Furthermore, this titled dolua possessed rank 96 soul power. He wasn't weak. This was an unexpected surprise, but Lin Feng also expected this situation. The dolua continent was not small. Lin Feng remembered that Poseidon said in the original work that as long as he broke through to the titled dolua, he would have a lifespan of about 300 years. After that, every increase in soul power level would increase his lifespan by 100 years, and a peak rank 99 dolua could even live for more than 1,000 years. In such a long time, it was impossible for the titled dolua continent to only accumulate so many titled dolua. There should be many strong people hidden in the dark. And these hidden titled dolua should be a very powerful group. Just like the consecrators of the Martial Spirit Hall, they pursued a higher level in their eyes, so they usually cultivated in seclusion and did not care about the outside world. The one he found in this valley was the kind that was hidden. Fighting with this kind of soul master would definitely give him a lot of experience points. Today, Lin Feng had grasped the situation of the soul masters in Red Maple City. He grasped the opportunity and did not hesitate. Just like in Longxing City, he started farming. His doppelganger went to deal with those soul dolua and soul sages. In half an hour, he challenged all of them. Then, Lin Feng summoned his doppelganger and rushed to the valley with him to fight the titled Doluo, who was at rank 96. This fellow looked young, about 30 years old. However, Lin Feng knew that titled Doluo soul masters could use their soul power to maintain their appearance. They could even rejuvenate their youthful looks. What you saw on the surface could not be taken seriously. Judging by his looks, this guy was at least 300 years old. There was no proof. It was just Lin Feng's feeling. His martial soul was a very special vine that was shaped like a long whip. It should be a mutated martial soul that could confine space. I am Ming Hong. I have been cultivating here for many years. You two young people are not virtuous. How dare you deceive me? You sneak attacked me. I am a rank 96 soul master. Is this okay? This is not okay. Ming Hong fought with Lin Feng and said, I advise you. You two young people should take care of yourselves. Don't fight in my valley. Ming Hong's martial soul was very powerful and could restrain some of Lin Feng's soul skills. Even if his original body and doppelganger attacked together, they could only fight to a draw. Moreover, this guy was very experienced in fighting. Lin Feng's attacks were easily resolved by him. In his previous life, he had mastered all of the traditional kung fu techniques, such as receiving, changing, and releasing. 9th soul skill. Pinecone flick lightning 5 consecutive whips. Ming Hong suddenly shouted. His martial soul suddenly flashed with lightning. In an instant, he threw out 5 whips, knocking Lin Feng's original body and doppelganger to the ground. However, Lin Feng's recovery ability was very strong. He stood up quickly. Very fast. He came up and kicked Ming Hong with his left leg. His doppelganger also followed up with a right whip kick. However, Ming Hong's strength was very terrifying. He blocked all of them. Lin Feng took advantage of the moment when his opponent was defending and did not have time to change his move. He immediately threw a left jab. Bang! Ming Hong was careless. He did not dodge and took the punch. With a snap, his nose was broken. Chapter 392. Ming Hong's mutated martial soul was powerful, but Lin Feng's recovery ability was too fast. After more than an hour, under Lin Feng's fierce attacks, Ming Hong was defeated. Luckily, the valley was far away from Maple City, so Lin Feng had time to waste with Ming Hong. Otherwise, he would have run away for his own safety. After fighting for more than an hour, Ming Hong alone had given him 50 million experience points, not to mention the soul masters from other forces in the city. In total, Maple City had given Lin Feng more than 70 million experience points. That was a good number. He had earned more than Longxing City. Lin Feng was in a good mood. Today I had a good time, so I'll spare your life. Lin Feng laughed out loud and then left. He had put a small piece of the 1,000 trickery ruler on Ming Hong during the fight. Ming Hong shouldn't have noticed. In that case, Lin Feng could come and fight with him in the future. He would be happy to get a power bank. But speaking of which, Ming Hong was really strong. His martial spirit was too strange. It could directly confine space. And the 5 consecutive whips were so fast that Ming Hong couldn't even dodge them. Ming Hong's martial soul was not limited to the common sense. No matter how strong Lin Feng's body was, he couldn't have dodged those attacks. It seemed that Lin Feng had underestimated the titled Doluo. Soul masters who could cultivate to the level of a titled Doluo were all extremely talented. Most of their martial souls were top-tier martial souls, or even stronger mutated martial souls. Some of the mutated martial souls had special abilities that could restrain others. Titled Doluo at rank 96 and above would have a special understanding of martial souls. Lin Feng had fought too few titled Doluo before. That was why he thought that these people were only that strong. In fact, those powerful individuals who were hiding were all very experienced. They weren't easy to deal with. In fact, Ghost Doluo's martial soul was a bit of a counter to Lin Feng's martial soul. It was just that his rank was a bit lower, so he and Yu Guan weren't able to defeat him back then. If he could increase his rank by 2 or 3 more ranks, his understanding of his martial soul would deepen, and the increase in his strength would be extremely terrifying. However, Lin Feng wasn't weak either. Aside from the 3 level 99 pinnacle Doluo, no one could kill him alone. After all, his recovery ability was too terrifying. As long as he couldn't be instantly killed, Lin Feng could exhaust him to death. No matter how strong he was, it would be useless. Because of this, Lin Feng placed his strength at level 98. Of course, Lin Feng was strong on his own, but if he were to be ganged up on by a titled Doluo or a large number of soul Doluo, he would still die. After all, there was a gap in strength between titled Doluo, but it wasn't a qualitative difference like a pinnacle Doluo. Numbers could still make up for the gap. If Lin Feng wanted to be invincible on the continent, he would need at least a 1,000,000-year soul ring, or a 100,000-year soul ring with a 100,000-year soul bone. At that time, Lin Feng would be able to shock the gods even if he didn't have a divine position. While thinking of this, Lin Feng had already begun to run to the next city. He didn't intend to lure the Martial Soul Palace over. That would take more time, and Bibi Dong might come personally. If it was like Longxing City, Bibi Dong would come brazenly, and Lin Feng would be able to detect it in advance. But if Bibi Dong was smarter and understood that he didn't make a move because he was afraid of her, then it would be terrible. In this way, Bibi Dong would definitely find an opportunity to fish. On the surface, only 2 elders would come, but she would bring people to follow secretly. As long as Lin Feng couldn't resist the temptation and made a move, Bibi Dong would instantly bring people out from the dark. At that time, it would be terrible. After all, Bibi Dong was very likely to be in the divine test at this time. If she suddenly used the power of a god, then Lin Feng would be dumbfounded. So, it was better to be steady. He continued to shuttle between the cities and look for more to see if he could find the hidden Doluo like Ming Hong. These people also gave a lot of EXP. As long as he could find them fast enough and then repeatedly spar with them, the amount of EXP he would gain after a few rounds across the continent would be unimaginable. In this way, with Lin Feng's departure, the incident in Maple City spread throughout the continent again. Countless forces were shocked. The Marvel family had made 2 big moves in a row in half a month, and it was a large-scale search in the Martial Soul Palace. This was simply a slap in the face of the Martial Soul Palace, and the Soul Masters in Maple City were also dumbfounded. When they were talking about Longxing City previously, they thought that it was impossible for this to happen in their city. However, within a few days, the entire Maple City was also hit in an instant. After Bibi Dong received the news, she was furious and asked the demonic Moon Pass to investigate there. And all the cities and forces in the Star Luo Empire were panicking at this time. Originally, they thought that the Marvel family chose Longxing City, which was the closest to the Martial Soul Palace, just to take revenge on the Martial Soul Palace. This could only be regarded as a coincidence, and it wouldn't happen a second time. But now, in less than half a month, Maple City became the second city to be attacked. This meant that the Marvel family might launch such a raid on a large scale, and every city might be targeted. This made those Soul Masters above the Soul Sage level a little nervous. However, they could only be afraid. The Martial Soul Palace was such a powerful force, yet they couldn't catch Lin Feng. They had no other choice but to pray that they wouldn't be targeted. Lin Feng's actions wouldn't stop because of these people's fear. Soon, Lin Feng set his eyes on the 3rd city. This was already considered a relatively inland area of the Star Luo Empire. After Lin Feng came over, he still did the same thing and investigated the situation. But this time, Lin Feng also added a new game, and that was to let new characters take action. Didn't Doctor Strange's identity self-destruct? Lin Feng created 2 new identities this time, Sorcerer Supreme and Baron Modu. The Marvel family had 2 new titled Doluo. This kind of thing was enough to make the Martial Soul Palace focus their attention on the Marvel family again, and at the same time, it could also stir up the water in the world of Soul Masters even more. In this way, the number of titled Dolua from the Marvel family would reach 4, which was really terrifying. After the plan was done, Lin Feng quickly figured out the situation of the third city and then implemented the plan. When the news of the third city being attacked spread, Yu Guan and Gue Mei were still searching for clues in Maple City. This made the Martial Soul Palace lose face, but Gue Mei and Yu Guan didn't delay much. After receiving the news, they immediately went to Martial Soul City and told Bibi Dong. In fact, Bibi Dong had expected that the third city would be attacked. However, the sudden appearance of 2 new titled Dolua left her very astonished. This Marvel family was too terrifying. There were already 4 titled Dolua. Even if one of the 2 that appeared now was Thanos in disguise, there would be at least 3 titled Dolua. It was just that their specific strength was still unknown. If they were like Yingluan who didn't have much soul power rank, then it was still acceptable. If they were like Thanos or Doctor Strange, then this family's strength might not be weaker than the Martial Soul Palace. For a moment, Bibi Dong felt that she had to rewrite the plans she had just written. At the same time, she also understood that this Marvel family seemed to be looking for cities to attack everywhere in Star Luo. Because of their unique hiding skills, the Martial Soul Palace couldn't do anything to them in a short period of time. Even if they went out to look for them, it would be a waste of manpower and resources. Instead of that, it was better to just ignore them and let them cause trouble. After all, this Marvel family didn't kill people. At the moment, Bibi Dong could tell that these people must have some other purpose. But no matter how she thought about it, she couldn't figure out what Lin Feng's purpose was. This made her a little annoyed, but she had to deal with it. As for the third city, she still had to go. At the very least, she had to confirm whether the 2 new titled Dolua were real or not. Just like that, Yu Guan and Ghost were sent out again. At the same time, Lin Feng didn't choose to continue moving forward. Instead, he hurried toward the Star Do Great Forest. He had said before that he would come back to check on Xiao Wu within a month. By the time he returned to the Star Do Great Forest, almost a month had passed. At the Shrek Academy, Flanders and the others were very happy. After all, this meant that Lin Feng should be in good condition. The Grandmaster was also very happy. More accurately speaking, he had been very happy recently. He had been researching ancient soul tool technology. Because he had been inspired by Lin Feng, he had made a qualitative leap in this area. He estimated that he would be able to develop soul tools that could detect other people's strength within a year. Oh yes, what about Ma Hongjun and Oscar? The Grandmaster realized that Oscar was quite talented in soul tool technology, so he brought him along as his apprentice. Ma Hongju didn't have that kind of talent. He chose to leave the academy and started to roam the Heaven Do Empire. Right now, Lin Feng and Tang San weren't around. He didn't plan to join any other organization. It was better for him to work hard and increase his own strength. Ning Rongrong had started to cultivate diligently in the sect. Dusty Heart passed by once, and could faintly hear Ning Rongrong muttering, "Feng Gu, I will definitely surpass you." With this thought in mind, Ning Rongrong trained diligently. She wanted to give Lin Feng a surprise when he appeared again. In the Heaven Do City's palace, Xue Qinghe knew that he had made the right choice when he heard that the third city had been attacked. He should have chosen the Marvel clan. The execution of the Marvel clan, their high-end fighting strength, their concealment skills, and everything else made Xue Qinghe very amazed. In this way, he had to find a way to get to the Sea God's Island. Otherwise, he would have no bargaining chips the next time he met Thanos. Xue Qinghe wanted to join the Marvel clan in the future. Therefore, he had to show his value. On Dugubo's side, he was cultivating in the academy while waiting for Thanos to come. Lin Feng had said that Thanos would come back to find him in the future. It had been almost a month, but Thanos still hadn't come. Dugu was a little impatient when he cultivated. However, according to Lin Feng's plan, he would make a trip to Heaven Do City after returning to the Star Do Great Forest. Dugu wouldn't be able to wait for long. Lin Feng would be here soon. After talking about the Heaven Do Empire, it was time to talk about the Star Luo Empire. Dai Mubai and Zhu Zhuqing had already returned to Star Luo City. Because the two of them were very powerful and talented, they had already begun to control the power of their respective clans. Although they were very busy, the news of the three cities still spread throughout Star Luo City. Zhu Zhuqing wasn't disgusted at all. Instead, she was very happy. She thought that it would be even better if those people could come to Star Luo City. Because of Lin Feng, Zhu Zhuqing also had a good impression of the people from the Marvel family. She was very much looking forward to seeing Lin Feng among those people. Dai Mubai's battle was more intense. After all, it was for the throne. The result wouldn't be decided anytime soon. It would take some time. When he heard the news, he was also quite happy. Mr. Destroy's family was indeed powerful. Tang San was still the same. He was quietly training alone in the mountain range. Tang Hao didn't block all his information channels. Every once in a while, Tang Hao would go to the nearby cities to collect some resources. Today, he learned that the Marvel family had made a move for the third time. He couldn't help but sigh. The Marvel family was really powerful. They even had two powerful titled battle pet warriors, Dolu. How terrifying! Tang Hao wouldn't tell Tang San about that. At this time, Tang San was in a special training period. It was best not to be disturbed by external factors, so Tang Hao wouldn't tell him about it for the time being. When Tang San's training period was over, he would tell him everything. Star Do Great Forest. Lin Feng finally returned to the lake where Daming and Erming were. With just a glance, Lin Feng could tell that Xiao Wu was already a Soul King. Not bad. Not bad, you actually achieved your goal. Lin Feng clapped and went to Xiao Wu's side. The latter hugged him happily. Feng Go, am I very powerful? I've been working hard to cultivate. Xiao Ying also followed and licked Lin Feng's face. As for Little Moon, he took root in the nearby valley and didn't come this time. Feng Go, you told me before. I know that if I can become a Soul King, I can go out and play for a few days. Don't worry, I'll take you out to play when I'm done, Lin Feng said with a smile. Since he had promised, Lin Feng would do it. However, before that, he still had to make a trip to Shrek Academy. He hadn't given Dugu an explanation back then. Now that he had done so, Lin Feng could take Xiao Wu out to play. While thinking about this, Lin Feng didn't stay in the forest for long. After saying a few words to Xiao Wu and the others, he flew straight to Shrek Academy. Chapter 393. The Shrek Academy was now very famous across the entire continent. This was because news of them taking first place in the tournament in Martial Soul City had already spread. After returning that day, Emperor Shui Yi personally rewarded Flanders and the others. The Shrek Academy was also conferred the title of the Empire's Honorary Academy. This wasn't something that the Imperial Honorary Academy could compare to. This was a reward given by the entire empire. This was the first time this had happened since the establishment of the Heaven Do Empire. This showed how much Emperor Shui Yi valued and supported the Shrek Academy. Under such circumstances, the Shrek Academy was very proud of itself. Furthermore, the Seven Treasures Glazed sect was also forming a sect alliance, and had gathered some of the major powers. Shrek Academy had also been invited. This also helped to spread the Shrek Academy's reputation. Many powers came to befriend them. When Lin Feng returned to the academy as Thanos, he was a little surprised when he saw the bustling Academy Avenue. Why does it look like a tourist attraction? Why are there so many people everywhere? However, Lin Feng didn't mind. This was because most of these people were only heading towards the main part of the academy. The forest behind it was still forbidden for these people to enter. Lin Feng easily reached the forest. After that, he sensed that Ma Hongjun and Shrek's 7 monsters didn't seem to be here. Right now, only Flanders and the others were holding down the fort in the Shrek Academy. Dugu Bo seemed to be cultivating in the depths of the forest. Dugu Bo's soul power had reached the peak of rank 95. He only lacked enlightenment to break through. However, enlightenment was the most difficult part. It wasn't something that could be improved just because one wanted to. It required time and effort. If one was a genius, he might be able to achieve enlightenment in a few decades and break through by 1 rank. If one was a fool, it might take more than 100 years to break through by 1 rank. However, these experts of the older generation all had terrifying experience in fighting. Ming Hong was an example. Although he was only at rank 96 when he was around 300 years old, he was very strong. Furthermore, these people were soul masters who had accumulated soul power for a very long time. The soul force in their bodies was extremely terrifying. If they were to experience an epiphany, it was possible for them to rise 2 or 3 ranks in one go. After all, they had been cultivating their soul force all this time. Their soul force would not dissipate, but would accumulate in their bodies. As long as they comprehended enough, their strength would increase exponentially. Of course, even the more foolish titled battle pet warriors wouldn't be able to break through 2 or 3 ranks in a row. The smarter ones would have reached the next rank and wouldn't have been stuck for so long. After Lin Feng entered the forest, he quickly sensed Dugu Bo's location and teleported in front of him. The latter was shocked and opened his eyes. When he saw that it was Thanos, he quickly got up and said respectfully, "Greetings, Mr. Destroy. How's the situation?" Lin Feng asked calmly. "My lord, everything is normal. The Martial Spirit Hall didn't do anything to the Shrek Academy," Dugu Bo hurriedly replied. He didn't say anything about the Star Luo Empire. He believed that Thanos knew about it. After all, the person involved was the Marvel family, so Dugu Bo didn't say anything unnecessary. "Very good." Lin Feng nodded and said, "In the following days, you will continue to stay in the Shrek Academy and cultivate well. Try to reach rank 96 as soon as possible." "Yes." Dugu Bo nodded. In the previous month, he had been a little anxious, but not because he had to stay in the Shrek Academy, but because Thanos had suddenly disappeared. Lin Feng said that Thanos would look for him later, but that was what Lin Feng said. Thanos didn't tell him personally, so Dugu Bo was a little anxious. Now that Thanos had appeared in person, he was no longer anxious. Not to mention staying in the Shrek Academy, even if he had to stay outside the Martial Spirit City. He felt that it wouldn't be a big problem. After all, in Dugu Bo's heart, Thanos was invincible, and his words couldn't be wrong. "Very good." Lin Feng nodded with satisfaction and left. Dugu Bo could be considered a little fan of Lin Feng's, and now it was quite convenient for him to use. Actually, it wasn't very useful for him to stay in the Shrek Academy. It was just a precaution. If the Martial Soul Hall really were to attack Heaven Do City like a madman, then Dugu Bo wouldn't be able to do much. Therefore, what Lin Feng had to do was to continue to put pressure on the Martial Spirit Hall, and continue to launch sneak attacks in the Star Luo Empire. As long as the Marvel family wasn't stable, the Martial Spirit Hall wouldn't dare to act freely. After all, if the Marvel family could launch sneak attacks on major cities, they could also launch sneak attacks on the Martial Spirit City. This was an extremely mobile and powerful force, so Bibi Dong had to pay attention to it. As he was thinking about this, Lin Feng was rushing towards the Star Do Great Forest. He had promised Xiao Wu that he would take her out to play after he became a Soul King, and now it was time to fulfill his promise. As soon as he returned to the forest, Xiao Wu greeted him with a happy expression. "Feng Ge, you're finally here. I've been waiting for half a day." On the side, Xiao Ying barked and jumped onto Lin Feng's back. It wanted to go out and play too. Speaking of which, Xiao Ying hadn't been to human society for a long time. It was mainly because his strength had reached a bottleneck, and he couldn't cultivate anything in a short period of time. On the other hand, Xiao Ying also liked some of the delicious food in the human world. Now that he hadn't eaten for a long time, he was still very happy to eat with Lin Feng. Okay, it's the two of you. Come with me to play for 3 days, and you have to come back after 3 days. Lin Feng nodded. Xiao Wu said with a look of displeasure. The soul ring I condensed this time is a 20,000-year one. My soul power has reached rank 52, and it won't be long before I reach rank 53. I've improved so much that I have to go out to play for at least a month. Meow. Xiao Ying also nodded in agreement. At this time, he and Xiao Wu were on the same side. The longer Xiao Wu went out, the longer he could play with her. So now, of course, he would speak up for Xiao Wu. No. Only 3 days. After 3 days, both of you have to come back, especially you, Xiao Wu, continue to cultivate. Strive to become a soul emperor within a year. Lin Feng sternly refused. He didn't have time to play with Xiao Wu. Earning experience was the most important thing. At this time, he was only accompanying Xiao Wu for 3 days because he wanted to use this opportunity to gather information about a few cities. The next time he came, he could directly start fighting. 3 days it is, Xiao Wu said with a look of grievance. Can you give me 1 year and 2 months? 1 year is too difficult. I can't become a soul emperor at all. The cultivation of a soul king was different from that of a soul ancestor. Every increase in rank was very difficult. Dai Mubai went from rank 53 to rank 54, and it took him more than 2 months. According to his speed, it would be normal for him to reach rank 59 in a year. It would depend on luck to become a soul emperor. Xiao Wu's cultivation speed was actually only a little faster than Dai Mubai's. She might be able to break through 1 rank in 2 months. In a year, she could only increase by 6 ranks. If that was the case, Xiao Wu should be rank 58 in a year. Even if she gritted her teeth and worked a little harder, she would reach rank 59 at most. It was basically impossible for her to become a soul emperor. How do you know you can't do it if you haven't tried? Lin Feng said, Little Moon still has moon fruits. As long as you cultivate hard for a year and eat a few moon fruits, you can definitely become a soul emperor. Oh. Xiao Wu's face was slightly bitter. Although Lin Feng's method was feasible, in that case, she wouldn't have much time to play for the next year. She would have to spend most of her time cultivating. That was too tiring, and it would be very difficult to persevere. If you don't work hard when you're young, you'll be sad when you're old. Xiao Wu, if you want to catch up to your third brother, you have to work harder than him. Lin Feng said, Although I didn't see Xiao San, his father definitely didn't bring him to play. He might be training several times harder than you. After Xiao Wu heard this, she became serious. Fenggu, you're right. Third brother must be training hard. I can't drag him down. I have to reach rank 60 as soon as possible. That's right. Let's go. Where do you want to go to play? Tell me, I'll bring you there now. Run faster. You can visit 3 cities in a day. That's 9 cities in 3 days. Lin Feng smiled. Soto City. Xiao Wu quickly said, Let's go to Soto City first. The big bowl of noodles on that snack street is very delicious. I want to eat it again. Okay. Lin Feng brought Xiao Wu and Xiao Ying and flew quickly to Soto City. Just like that, Lin Feng brought a person and a leopard and played happily for 3 days. They played all the border cities of the 2 empires. The main reason was that they were close and didn't need to waste time on the road. That was why Xiao Wu chose them. And in these 3 days, there were some subtle changes in the situation of the entire continent. The main thing was that the world of soul masters had slowly begun to show signs of chaos. These signs were too small compared to the entire continent. Moreover, they didn't spread, so the impact wasn't big. However, since things had started, it was difficult to stop before a powerful force intervened. 20 years ago, the world of Soul Masters was still quite chaotic. In the end, the chaos stopped because of the Clear Sky sect's retreat. Now, the source of the chaos was the Marvel family. If this force didn't disappear, then the world of Soul Masters wouldn't be able to recover to its previous state. Or to put it another way, if the Martial Spirit Palace was replaced by the Marvel family, then the entire world of Soul Masters would change drastically. Not only the world of Soul Masters, it was possible that the entire continent would undergo a huge change. Of course, these things weren't something that ordinary people could predict. Only some smart people could understand the meaning behind it. And Bibi Dong happened to be one of these smart people. She knew the danger of the Marvel family, so she had been vigorously investigating the Marvel family. At this time, she had two plans in her mind. One was this thorough investigation. If she could find clues, then of course it would be good. She would just take action. The other plan was to ignore it completely and let the Star Luo Empire be in chaos. This would also help the Martial Spirit Palace to control the Star Luo Empire. Of these two plans, Bibi Dong was currently implementing the first one. However, Bibi Dong thought for a while. If the Marvel family continued to make a move, it would be better for the Martial Spirit Palace to ignore it. Let them make a mess. If they could find the pattern of the Marvel family's attacks, Bibi Dong could also bring people to steal a wave of them. Now, it had been almost 10 days since the last time the Marvel family attacked the third city. There hadn't been a fourth incident for so long. Many people thought that the Marvel family had achieved their goal before, so they stopped. However, how could Lin Feng stop at this time? He was brewing a big plan, that was to attack 3 cities at the same time. The main reason was that these 3 cities were relatively close to each other, and many experts from different forces would come and go between these 3 cities. As long as Lin Feng grasped the speed, he could quickly finish the 3 cities. In this way, it took another 3 days or so for Lin Feng to determine the fighting route and the general situation of the cities. Today, after choosing the right time, Lin Feng made his move. With the previous experience, this time Lin Feng's speed was extremely fast. In less than 2 hours, he plundered the experience points of the 3 cities. After 3 cities, he didn't meet Dolua. This made Lin Feng a little disappointed, but in the end, he also gained about 150 million experience points. He made a lot of money. After that, the news of the 3 cities being attacked at the same time was widely spread and soon spread throughout the 2 empires. Bibi Dong frowned when she heard the news. Originally, she didn't want to care about the Marvel family. Even if the cities were attacked in the future, she wouldn't let Dolua investigate. Sol Dolua would go and understand the situation. However, today 3 cities were attacked at the same time. The situation was much worse than before. The Martial Spirit Palace must send powerhouses to investigate. Otherwise, in the eyes of the Soul Masters, they would gradually lose their prestige. This move really made Bibi Dong's checkmate. She had no choice but to let Yu Guan and Gu Mei go over. While investigating the information in the city, she also had to figure out the situation. This time, the Martial Spirit Palace's plan would be delayed again. It was really annoying. While Bibi Dong was annoyed, Lin Feng was very happy. Because when he was rushing to the next city, he found a hidden powerhouse in a forest on the way. He was also a titled Dolu. His strength was at rank 97, and he was extremely powerful. When Lin Feng met him, he directly went up to fight without saying a word. He didn't care how strong this guy was, or what his martial soul was. Anyway, he couldn't kill him in a second. In this case, Lin Feng would definitely be able to earn experience points. So he didn't talk nonsense at all. He just went up and fought. Half an hour later, with a sneak attack from Lin Feng's avatar, he was too lazy to continue playing. His main body also went up to attack. With a flash of soul rings, Lin Feng easily restrained this person. Chapter 394. This titled Dolua's soul power was stronger than Ming Hong's, but his abilities were much weaker than Ming Hong's. The reason why the battle ended in half an hour was because Lin Feng went easy on him. Otherwise, he would have finished the battle in 3 minutes at most. A large part of the reason for this was due to the suppression of his martial soul. Ming Hong was too much of a counter to Lin Feng, so he attacked together with his main body. After more than an hour of fierce attacks, they finally managed to beat Ming Hong until he ran out of soul power and escaped. On the other hand, Lin Feng, whose martial soul wasn't too effective against him, could easily crush him under a pincer attack. It was precisely because of this that the gap between the two of them was so large. Of course, there was another very important reason, and that was because their opponent was Lin Feng. Dolua was a titled battle pet warrior. Even if the titled battle pet warrior was weaker than the titled battle pet warrior, as long as the gap wasn't too big, the battle could still last for an hour or two. Those with similar strength could even fight for a few days, and only then could a victor be determined. On the other hand, Lin Feng was completely different from the others. His martial soul was simply too invincible. It was able to recover everything other than his spirit. As long as he wasn't instantly killed, he would be able to drag anyone to death. Moreover, during the battle, Lin Feng fought with his life on the line, exchanging injuries for injuries. So what if their strength was similar? If you hit me once, I'll recover very quickly. But if I hit you once, you'll lose half of your life. There's no way to play. It's like playing LOL and I'm standing in the spring. As long as your attack power can't exceed my recovery speed, I can play you to death. In this kind of situation, even if his strength was inferior to others, he still had nothing to fear. After being restrained by Lin Feng, the titled battle pet warrior Dolua had a backbone. He kept yelling that Lin Feng could kill him. Lin Feng couldn't be bothered with him. He placed a tracker on the man's body and left him behind. Dolua stared at Lin Feng in bewilderment. He didn't understand what had happened at all. He was beaten up for no reason and then left. It was really strange. In fact, Lin Feng could choose to imprison this guy and keep him by his side as a power bank. Dolua was a newly encountered titled battle pet warrior. He could gain quite a lot of experience points by fighting Dolua every day. However, after thinking about it for a while, this idea was extinguished. That was because one had to constantly keep an eye on such experts. Even if one was keeping an eye on them, one had to prevent them from escaping. The reason why Lin Feng was able to capture the other party just now was mainly because of the surprise attack. In addition, the other party was very angry and wanted to fight with him, so Lin Feng was able to find an opportunity to restrain the other party. If this guy was mentally prepared and found a chance to escape, Lin Feng might be able to catch him once or twice, but if he tried too many times, he would eventually be able to escape. It would take a long time to completely subdue a titled battle pet warrior Dolu. Even Dugu Bo had spent almost a month to subdue a titled battle pet warrior. Now, Lin Feng had to spend another month to convince a person and prevent him from escaping. He didn't have the time to do that. During this long period of time, he could earn more experience points by running to a few more cities. More importantly, Lin Feng was sure to run into more titled battle pet warriors like Dolua on the Dolua continent. By the time he had swept across the entire continent, he would specifically look for titled battle pet warriors like Dolua. By then, he would be able to earn more experience points. For that reason, Lin Feng only placed some trackers on them and didn't pay much attention to them. Just like that, Lin Feng moved on to the next city. The entire Dolua continent was in chaos because of the appearance of the Marvel family. The Heaven Do Empire was better because Lin Feng hadn't gone there yet. Also, the Seven Treasures Glazed sect had formed an alliance, so the situation was relatively stable. But the Star Luo Empire was in chaos. Not only was the world of soul masters in chaos, but the lives of ordinary people were also affected. In addition, Dai Mubai and Davis were fighting for power. Because Davis wasn't willing to give up, the empire was in a bit of turmoil. Under such circumstances, the entire empire was in a state of dispiritedness. The martial spirit hall took the opportunity to rope in many of the nobles in the Star Luo Empire. If this continued for 2 or 3 years, the martial spirit hall might take the opportunity to swallow up the entire Star Luo Empire. But Bibi Dong knew that this was unrealistic. The prerequisite for swallowing up the Star Luo Empire in 2 or 3 years was that the empire remained in chaos. This was impossible because the martial spirit hall didn't dare to let the chaos continue for too long. They would take the initiative to help the Star Luo Empire stop the chaos. Otherwise, the Heaven Do Empire wouldn't be a fool and would definitely find an opportunity to attack. At that time, the Star Luo Empire would be swallowed up and the entire continent would be unified. The martial spirit hall would be finished. Therefore, Bibi Dong would never let the Star Luo Empire fall into chaos. Now that the chaos had begun, they first roped in some nobles and immediately began to help the Star Luo Empire control the chaos. On the Star Luo Empire's side, there were also many forces that cooperated with the martial spirit hall. As long as they found out about the Marvel family, they would immediately report it. And these things were all seen by Lin Feng. However, his movements were too fast, and his 1,000-trickster ruler was like a bug. Unless he made a move, it was impossible to find out. Just like that, Lin Feng stirred up trouble in the various cities of the Star Luo Empire and didn't encounter too many obstacles at all. And while Lin Feng was crazily attacking soul masters in these cities, the various forces were also undergoing astonishing changes. Bibi Dong borrowed the pressure from the outside world and quickly unified the martial spirit hall, and there were no more voices of opposition. Then he took the opportunity to subdue a large number of soul master forces in the Star Luo Empire. Not only was his strength not affected, but it had also increased. Right among the 3 Golden Generation members of the Martial Spirit Hall, Yen Yen and Yen Yen went to Death Valley. Evil Moon and Yen went to the Death Canyon to train. Although they were geniuses, after experiencing the competition, they knew that there was always someone better than them. Whether it was the 7 Avengers or Shrek's 7 monsters, they were all much stronger than them. Therefore, their desire to become stronger was extremely fierce. They went to a place like Death Valley and risked their lives to train. And Hulaina was even more ruthless. She went directly to the city of Massacre. Although the Death Valley was dangerous, the risk of life and death was at most 50%. But the city of Massacre was different. It was a place where one could enter but not leave. It could be said that there was no chance of survival. Hulaina dared to go to such a place. Her courage was not ordinary. In fact, Bibi Dong didn't agree with Hulaina going because Bibi Dong really wanted to train her to be the Pope. He didn't want her to die. However, Hulaina was very ambitious. She wanted to become stronger and prove that she wasn't weaker than those 14 people. Furthermore, this had become a barrier in her heart. In Hulaina's heart, only the most talented soul master had the qualifications to be the Pope. Her master, Bibi Dong, was such a genius. Not only was he very powerful, but he was also very smart. Furthermore, she came out of the city of Massacre alive. Hulaina felt that only by going through Hell's Road and coming out of the city of Massacre alive would she be qualified to be the next Pope. Hulaina had made up her mind, and Bibi Dong didn't persuade her anymore. Instead, he took out a skull bone and gave it to Hulaina. He also encouraged her to come out of Hell's Road alive. Just like that, Hulaina stepped into the city of Massacre. On the other hand, Tang San's strength was much stronger than in the original book. At this moment, Tang Hao's exclusive training for him was completed very quickly. In just half a year, Tang San had completed all the training. His strength had also increased from rank 54 to rank 60. At this time, Tang Hao didn't bring Tang San to obtain his 6th soul ring. Instead, he threw him into the city of massacre. Just like that, time flew by quickly. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed since the end of the Continental Soul Master Tournament. In this year, Lin Feng had been to the entire Star Luo Empire. Apart from Star Luo City, he had been to all the other cities. During this time, he had swept out a total of 13 powerful titled Doluo Soul Masters. They were all above rank 95. What a guy! None of them came out in the original book. It turned out that they were all hiding. Lin Feng reckoned that there were more titled Doluo Soul Masters hiding. After all, he didn't search every inch of the place. There were many places that he didn't search. Conservatively speaking, there were probably more than 25 titled Doluo Soul Masters hiding in the Star Luo Empire. It was almost the same as the number of titled Doluo Soul Masters in the Martial Spirit Hall. In the two empires, there were probably more than 50 titled Doluo Soul Masters hiding. That was not a lot. That was the accumulation of the entire Doluo continent for thousands of years. Lin Feng had met a titled Doluo Soul Master who was at rank 98. That person was probably 800 years old. Lin Feng and his clone confronted each other for a while, and then Lin Feng ran away. The two of them didn't fight, but Lin Feng sensed a life-and-death crisis at that time, so he ran away without saying anything. It had to be said that the older a soul master was, the stronger they were. After all, the longer they lived, the more tricks they had. Although he was only at rank 98, he might be able to resist 1,000 paths sect. Those people also made Lin Feng realize how deep the waters were on the continent of Dolu. Fortunately, he had waited until he was strong enough to protect himself before he went out to provoke others. Otherwise, he would have been killed if he had run into a certain big shot. At the moment, Lin Feng had earned a lot of experience points in the past year. Apart from the titled Doluo Soul Master who had scared him away, Lin Feng had fought the other 12 titled Doluo Soul Masters several times. Apart from the titled Doluo Soul Master, he had also fought more than 500 soul sages, including countless soul sages. Lin Feng didn't count how much experience points he had earned. After all, he already had more than 6 billion experience points. Furthermore, Lin Feng hadn't launched a sneak attack on Star Luo City, which had the most soul masters. This place had the most soul masters and was definitely the strongest. The Martial Soul Hall had also set up an ambush here, so Lin Feng hadn't made a move yet. Today was the 6th time he had come to Star Luo City. The previous 5 times, he had only come to observe and take a look at Dai Mubai and Zhu Zhuqing from afar. This time, Lin Feng was also here to observe. If the ambushers left, he would steal the last city. If the ambush was still there, Lin Feng would also make a move. However, he wouldn't care about the Soul Doluo Soul Masters or Soul Sages. He would only send his clones to find the titled Doluo Soul Masters. He wouldn't send out his main body or his clones. After all, his safety was the most important. Lin Feng's thoughts were simple. Even if his clones couldn't defeat the titled Doluo Soul Masters, he would still do it. After all, this was the last city. It didn't matter if he didn't have enough experience points. He would earn as much as he could. As he thought about this, Lin Feng began to investigate Star Luo City. First, he saw the local titled Doluo Soul Masters. There were a total of 4 of them. 3 of them were in the Imperial City, and the last one was outside the city. He was a powerful person from a hidden faction. Why was he called a hidden faction? It was because in the eyes of outsiders, there was no titled Doluo Soul Master in this faction. The master of this faction was only a soul sage. Lin Feng was only able to discover this person because of his tracking device. It tracked down a soul ancestor and led him to this person. However, the 4th titled Doluo Soul Master didn't have a very high rank. He was only at rank 91. It seemed like he had just broken through not long ago. In addition to the 4 local titled Doloa Soul Masters, Lin Feng also went to the Martial Soul Temple for 2 days. He discovered that there was still a titled Doloa Soul Master hidden there. However, the 4 people who were originally lying in ambush seemed to have left. Lin Feng didn't sense them. This was a good thing. This way, Lin Feng would be able to earn all the experience points. After spending another 3 days planning, Lin Feng was ready to make his move. But before that, he still went to see Zhu Zhuqing and Dai Mubai from afar. Dai Mubai was in the imperial city. He was now the crown prince. Zhu Zhuqing was now the leader of the younger generation of the Zhu family. He even had the support of the elders in the family. After a year, the 2 of them had changed a lot. Perhaps it was because of their family. They were no longer young and inexperienced. They had become more mature. In terms of strength, the 2 of them didn't improve very much. They could only be said to be alright. Dai Mubai only increased 3 ranks in a year. He was now at rank 57. Zhu Zhuqing was a soul ancestor, so he improved faster. Not only did he become a soul king from rank 46, but he was also at rank 53. This speed was faster than Dai Mubai's. Clearly, Zhu Zhuqing had put more effort into improving his strength over the past year. Lin Feng didn't go up to greet him. There was no need. He just wanted to wait for 3 years and see what Zhu Zhuqing would think after 3 years. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing, who was in the study, seemed to sense something. He looked in Lin Feng's direction. However, she didn't see anything. After pausing for a while, she shook her head and muttered, "I think I'm overthinking. This isn't a dream. Why is Feng Go here?" Not far away, Lin Feng had been paying attention to Zhu Zhuqing. Although her voice was soft, he still heard it. He first covered his chest, which was beating faster because he was caught peeping. He complained, "A woman's sixth sense is really scary. She can even find out." Then, a smile appeared on his face. "This girl, it's been a year and she's still thinking about me. Looks like my handsomeness is really invincible." Chapter 395. After leaving Zhu Zhuqing's place, Lin Feng quickly launched his plan. For a time, Star Luo City, which was known as the last pure land of the Star Luo Empire, was also in chaos. The Martial Spirit Hall and the titled Doloa of the Star Luo Empire had been on guard against this. After sensing some movements, they wanted to go out and capture the Marvel family. However, Lin Feng had already expected this. He was faster than these people. Before the titled Doloa came out, he took the initiative to find them. When the news spread in the city, all the titled Doloa in Star Luo City were beaten up by Lin Feng. After the news spread completely, Lin Feng had already left Star Luo City and rushed to the Heaven Do Empire. The next day, when Bibi Dong received the news that Star Luo City was attacked, her face was a little gloomy. Half a year ago, Bibi Dong predicted that the Marvel family might attack Star Luo City. Then she directly told Yu Guan and Gue Mei to not care about anything else. She directly took Qingyun Doloa and Yi Doloa and the 4 of them to wait in Star Luo City. Moreover, they also reached an agreement with the Star Luo Empire's royal family. As long as the Marvel family dared to appear, they would attack from both sides. In this way, they would definitely be able to catch the Marvel family. However, Yu Guan and the others waited for more than half a year, but the Marvel family did not touch Star Luo City. Maple City had been attacked 3 times, but they still did not touch Star Luo City. After seeing this, Bibi Dong felt that the Marvel family would not touch Star Luo City. In addition, the Martial Spirit Hall still had a mission for Yu Guan and the others, so the 4 of them were transferred back. Who would have thought that in less than half a month, Star Luo City would be robbed? This made Bibi Dong feel very uncomfortable. She even suspected that there were spies from the Marvel family in the Martial Spirit Hall. Otherwise, How could the Marvel family know about this news so quickly? Thinking about this, Bibi Dong prepared to secretly investigate the Martial Spirit Hall. While Bibi Dong was wondering about this, Lin Feng had already returned to the Star Do Great Forest. After running around for a year and raiding all of the cities in the Star Luo Empire, Lin Feng was a little tired, so he decided to rest for a while. It just so happened that Xiao Wu had been clamoring to go out 3 months ago. This time, he would take her and Xiaoing out to eat for a few days. Feng Go, Mr. Destroy, and the others are really amazing. The Star Luo Empire has been completely subdued by you, and Maple City has been bullied by you 3 times. As soon as he came back, Xiao Wu greeted him with joy. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. Did you sneak out to play? No. Xiao Wu's expression changed, and her tone instantly weakened. If you didn't go out, how would you know that Mr. Destroy attacked Maple Town 3 times? The 3rd time was more than a month ago, and the last time you went out was 4 months ago. This. Hearing this, Xiao Wu instantly didn't know how to find an excuse. Duong. A knock on the head made Xiao Wu's mouth puff up again. Are you rank 60? If you haven't reached rank 60, don't even think about going out to play tomorrow. Lin Feng said in annoyance. Of course. I'm already rank 62. My 6th soul ring is more than 40,000 years old. It's very powerful. Xiao Wu said proudly. The moon fruits provided by Little Moon were really powerful. Although she only ate 3, they helped Xiao Wu a lot. That was why she broke through to rank 60 a week ago, and then condensed her soul ring. Not bad. Lin Feng nodded. It was already very good if a Soul Emperor's 6th soul ring was 15,000 years old. Xiao Wu's was more than 40,000 years old, which was worthy of praise. There are still 2 years left. Work hard and try to cultivate to rank 70. Lin Feng encouraged. Although Xiao Wu was only rank 8, and she didn't need to hunt soul beasts, it looked very easy. In reality, it was a very difficult thing to do. Generally speaking, a super genius like Tang Hao would need 5 years to cultivate from rank 50 to rank 60. Ordinary people would need 10 years to start. However, it was a big hurdle to break through from rank 60 to rank 70. Ordinary people would need to spend 20 or 30 years to reach rank 70. Some would even be stuck at the Soul Emperor level for their entire lives, unable to break through to Soul Sage. Xiao Wu ate the immortal herb and didn't have this bottleneck. Now, she even had the help of the moon fruit. Under such circumstances, Xiao Wu could be said to be very lucky. However, at the Soul Emperor level, it would take at least 3 months to increase 1 rank. Including the moon fruit, it should take more than 2 months to increase 1 rank. In this way, it was still very difficult to reach rank 70 in 2 years. I can definitely do it. Xiao Wu's head suddenly didn't hurt anymore. She said with anticipation, I'm so hard-working, I'll definitely be able to surpass 3rd brother. When I see him in 2 years, I'll give him a good beating. When they were at Shrek Academy, Tang San and Xiao Wu often sparred. As for Tang San, this guy, he did not know how to have tender feelings for the fairer sex at all and would often hang Xiao Wu to beat. Therefore, the fact that little Wu was willing to work hard and give Tang San a good beating was not a small reason. When the time comes, I'll definitely be on your side. Lin Feng laughed. Speaking of which, Tang San should be training in the capital of Massacre right now. In that kind of place, it was mainly to hone one's skills and wisdom. As for the rank of his soul power, it wouldn't increase much. When he came out, he definitely wouldn't be able to reach the Soul Sage level. Xiao Wu had the moon fruit to increase her strength. In addition to taking care of the immortal herbs all year round, the energy concentration in the vicinity was probably going to skyrocket. It could be said that in the entire Dolua continent, other than Lin Feng and Xiaoying, Xiao Wu's cultivation speed could be ranked 3rd. Tang San would probably be ranked 4th. Ha ha! I'll beat 3rd brother until he begs for mercy. Xiao Wu also laughed loudly. Okay, I'm a little tired today. I'll sleep first. Tomorrow I'll bring you out to play for a few days. In order to quickly implement the plan, Lin Feng's mind was always full. Now that they were back in the Star Do Great Forest, he naturally had to sleep first. Okay. Xiao Wu laughed even more happily. At the same time, in the capital of Massacre's infernal slaughterhouse, a new round of slaughter began. Tang San and the other 9 people slowly entered the slaughterhouse. 3 minutes later, Tang San walked out with a few drops of blood on his body. It was very clear that in this infernal slaughterhouse, where there was a slim chance of survival, Tang San had obtained victory once again. In half a year, 70 battles, 70 victories. This was Tang San's current record. Every battle ended cleanly and neatly. In the capital of Massacre, he killed his way to the title of Azura. Now that he walked out of the infernal slaughterhouse, no one dared to make a move against him. What a joke! The title of Azura was filled with lives. Now, no one dared to make a move against Tang San. After all, in a place like the capital of Massacre where soul power could not be used, Tang San's hidden weapons were the strongest. Even the titled Doluo was not a match for Tang San. Of course, in order to train himself, Tang San had not used his hidden weapons even once in the infernal slaughterhouse. He had only used them once outside the slaughterhouse. He relied on the martial arts that Tang Hao had taught him, as well as the various combat techniques that he had learned from Lin Feng. In half a year, 70 victories. This speed had long broken the fastest record in the capital of Massacre. But Tang San knew that he definitely could not compare to Lin Feng. Lin Feng's physical fitness was too strong. Without using any soul power or soul skills, he could beat the entire team of Shrek's 7 monsters by himself. This kind of powerful strength was naturally suitable for the capital of Massacre. If Lin Feng came, Tang San estimated that he would be able to fight 100 matches in 3 months at most. After all, Lin Feng's physical strength was too strong. He probably wouldn't be tired even if he fought 10 matches a day. The reason why it was estimated to be 3 months was because others would be afraid. With Lin Feng in the competition, very few people would dare to take the initiative to sign up. Although this registration information would not be revealed, those who could come to the capital of Massacre were not fools. When they saw Lin Feng coming, they would not sign up. The main reason why Tang San only fought 70 matches in half a year was also because of this. Otherwise, he would have fought 100 matches. As for the current 70 matches, how did it come about? It was very simple. The capital of Massacre was very big, and there were too many people. There would always be those who did not believe in heresy or those who were stupid to sign up. Moreover, the city was too big. There were many who had not heard of the Azura name, and these people would also come to sign up. There was also a very important point. The infernal slaughterhouse was not a battle where only 10 people could participate at a time. This was a large building comparable to the Heaven Battle Soul Arena. There were many venues inside, and battles were happening all the time. Tang San changed places to sign up, and he would eventually fight. In these 70 matches, Tang San actually encountered several life and death crises. The most dangerous time was that he actually encountered 2 rank 80 beast martial soul battle soul masters at the same time. Even if their soul power was sealed, their physical fitness was much stronger than Tang San's. Moreover, the 2 of them attacked him together. In the end, Tang San risked his life to kill them. Even so, he was seriously injured and took half a month to recover. Right when he left the infernal slaughterhouse, there was a group of people who wanted to sneak attack him. As a last resort, Tang San used a hidden weapon and killed hundreds of people. Finally, under everyone's fearful eyes, he returned to his room. This was the only time he used a hidden weapon. Since then, no one dared to sneak attack Tang San. As for Hu Liena, she was very lucky and smart. Every time she saw Tang San sign up, she would change rooms to sign up. However, she was still much weaker than Tang San. Although she came half a year earlier than Tang San, she only had 45 victories in a year. She couldn't compare to him at all. Even so, she was still considered a super strong person in the City of Massacres. She was called the Emissary of Hell. In the City of Massacres, the two of them were very famous. In the Heaven Do Empire, a power called the Soul Master Alliance was beginning to take shape. This was the Soul Master Alliance led by Ning Fengji. There were a total of 4 powerhouses: the Shrek Academy, the Seven Treasures Glazed Sect, the Heaven Do Empire, and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan. Other than that, hundreds of big and small powers in the Heaven Do Empire had joined in this year. They were all aware of the strength of the Martial Soul Hall. They also saw the chaos in the world of Soul Masters. Therefore, they formed an alliance to resist the attack on the world of Soul Masters. If anything happened, everyone had to look out for each other and improve together. Of course, this power was still in its infancy. Ning Fengji didn't have any prior experience. After a year, the alliance wasn't very perfect. It still needed to be improved. This news was sealed by the Soul Master Alliance. In addition, Ning Fengji only looked for the experts of those powers. Not many people knew about it, and it didn't spread. There was no related news on the continent. At least, Lin Feng didn't know about it. If he had known, he might have even praised Ning Fengji for his quick thinking. Of course, Bibi Dong knew about this. In the Heaven Do Empire, many powers were on good terms with the Martial Soul Hall. After they heard about this, they sent letters over. Bibi Dong didn't care about this. What about the Soul Master Alliance? Was it useful? Maybe it would have some effect after 10 or 20 years. However, it was impossible to resist the Martial Soul Hall in a short period of time. In Bibi Dong's plan, the Martial Soul Hall would start to make a big move in 10 years. This alliance wouldn't make it in time. Of course, the formation of the Soul Master Alliance would bring some inconvenience to the Martial Soul Hall. If all the Soul Master powers in the Heaven Do Empire were to join forces, the Martial Soul Hall's branch hall would be in an awkward situation. Bibi Dong had a solution for this. Otherwise, she wouldn't have called Yu Guan and Gue Mei back. Now, she called them back to discuss with the powers in the Heaven Do Empire. The method of discussion was very simple. They would go to the Martial Soul Hall and say that the Martial Soul Hall had also formed a Soul Master Alliance. Now, they could choose whether they wanted to join Ning Fengji or the Martial Soul Hall. It was a very simple choice. She believed that the smarter powers would know how to choose. After all, the Martial Soul Hall was stronger than Ning Fengji. Unless you weren't afraid of the Martial Soul Hall, or if you were far from Martial Soul City, you would usually choose the Martial Soul Hall. After all, if the powers close to Martial Soul City were to be quietly destroyed by the Martial Soul Hall, they wouldn't even have a chance to escape. At this moment, 2 great powers in the Heaven Do Empire were fighting. On the other hand, Lin Feng was completely unaware. At this moment, he was playing with Xiao Wu in a city north of the Star Do Great Forest. This place was relatively remote and was blocked by the Star Do Great Forest. Trade was relatively poor, and the terrain wasn't very flat. Therefore, there were very few people in the city and news was blocked. However, the style here was very special. When Lin Feng and Xiao Wu played, it had a different flavor. Especially the food here, it was very refreshing and tasty. It was very satisfying to eat. Just like this, 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng went to several cities and played. In the end, of course, he couldn't keep playing. Xiao Wu was brought back to the Star Do Great Forest by Lin Feng and began to cultivate diligently again. As for Lin Feng, he was about to start his journey in the Heaven Do Empire. The first place was the few small cities that he had brought Xiao Wu to previously. Although there weren't many powerhouses there, Lin Feng still found a small surprise after wandering around for 5 days. Chapter 396. The small surprise was very simple. It was a reclusive titled Dolu. Lin Feng was also very lucky. When he was flying with Xiao Wu, he discovered this titled Dolu. Lin Feng must have been too arrogant when he was flying. Then, the reclusive titled Doluo saw him, and came out to investigate. His soul power undulations were released. Lin Feng didn't pay attention to him after he sensed it. Instead, he secretly remembered this guy's location. Today, he came to find him. Because this reclusive titled Doluo wasn't in the city, Lin Feng went to find him directly. After a round of sparring, they left. In the following days, Lin Feng began to do things like he did in the Star Luo Empire. He found a city, gathered information, and plundered experience points. If a few cities were close together, he could launch a sneak attack at the same time. Lin Feng had too much experience in this kind of thing. Up until today, he hadn't failed once. His clones or incarnations hadn't been caught even once. His incarnations could run mainly because they could teleport and change positions. Without special soul skills, it was impossible to catch them. As for his clones, Lin Feng would retrieve them if he could. If he couldn't, he could just dissipate them on the spot. In any case, he would only lose some soul power. It wasn't a big deal. Because of this, and because he was very careful, Lin Feng hadn't been caught even once. Now that he was in the Heaven Do Empire, Lin Feng didn't let his guard down. He was still very careful and began his journey of plundering experience points. A week later, when Lin Feng had plundered the fifth city, the news of the Marvel family's arrival in the Heaven Do Empire spread across the continent. Many people in the Heaven Do Empire couldn't believe their eyes. This was because they had always thought that the Marvel family would only cause trouble in the Star Luo Empire and wouldn't come to the Heaven Do Empire. After all, the Marvel family hadn't touched a single city in the Heaven Do Empire in the past year. Of course, there were still smart people who weren't surprised by this news. After all, the Marvel family had once said that they were going to challenge the entire continent, not just the Star Luo Empire. Heaven Do City, Shrek Academy. Ning Fengji brought Dusty Heart to Dugubo Shang for a discussion. Discuss what? Of course, it was about the Marvel family. Ning Fengji wanted Dugubo to invite Thanos over for a meeting. He needed to know what the other party was thinking. However, Dugubo didn't know how to contact Thanos. The order he received was to protect the Shrek Academy, and he didn't care about anything else. Dugubo didn't panic at all. Even if Thanos hadn't come looking for him for more than half a year, it didn't matter. Mr. Destroy must be fine. Otherwise, the Marvel family would not have been so active. Therefore, Dugubo only needed to focus on doing his job well. Ning Fengji was a little disappointed that he didn't get the answer he wanted, but he didn't say anything. He had a second plan, and that was to let the Martial Spirit Alliance inform Thanos. Because the Soul Masters of their alliance were more secretive, the Marvel family might not know about the establishment of the Martial Spirit Alliance. Ning Fengji had to hold an emergency meeting. The content of the meeting was very simple. It was for all the forces to do one thing. If they were attacked by the Marvel family, inform Thanos that Ning Fengji had something important to discuss with him in Martial Spirit City. It was to let the various forces be a mouthpiece and let Thanos know that Ning Fengji was looking for him. In any case, the Marvel family never killed people. It shouldn't be difficult for this news to spread. It was just that it might take a long time. After all, it would take a long time from the end of the meeting to these people returning and meeting Thanos and the others. It would take at least half a month. That was the truth. Half a month later, Lin Feng found out about the Martial Spirit Alliance. At the same time, he also found out that Ning Fengji wanted to see him. Needless to say, this guy definitely wanted to talk to him about sparring everywhere. Lin Feng didn't pay any attention to this. It was purely a waste of time. It was nothing more than asking him to talk about joining the Martial Spirit Alliance, or to find out why he was looking for people to spar with. Lin Feng didn't want to explain this at all. He wouldn't join the Martial Spirit Alliance. There was no need at all. If he had the time, he might as well go back and find a titled battle pet warrior, Dolua, and fight. Therefore, in the end, even if Lin Feng heard Ning Fengji's invitation, he continued to look for cities to spar with. East, north, south, west. In any case, he ran everywhere, changing places after every shot. He displayed the essence of guerrilla warfare and didn't give anyone a chance to block him. At this time, Ning Fengji didn't have time to care about Lin Feng's matters, because the Martial Spirit Alliance was making things difficult for them. Originally, the Martial Spirit Alliance was useless and didn't have much impact on the situation on the continent. But as time passed, and Ning Fengji came up with some good governance methods, the Martial Spirit Alliance finally became a threat. Recently, the persuasion team led by Gue Mei and Yu Guan had been frantically persuading various forces in the Heaven Do Empire to join the new Martial Spirit Alliance set up by the Martial Spirit Alliance. Titled Battle Pet Warrior Dolua had put a knife to their neck. How could these forces dare to refuse? They all joined. In fact, this was a change of direction to join the Martial Spirit Alliance. Although there were no restrictions and it was just a verbal agreement, it greatly suppressed Ning Fengji's alliance in terms of momentum. In addition, the Marvel family was sparring everywhere. Ning Fengji was having a headache at this time. He felt that if this continued, the Martial Spirit Alliance that he had painstakingly built would be nothing more than an empty name. After all, the Martial Spirit Alliance was too ruthless. They directly went to the door of these forces to persuade them and solve the problem at the source. Think about it, when the Martial Spirit Alliance roped in more than half of the forces, Ning Fengji would only need to shout and very few people would respond. Wouldn't it be an empty name? The strength of the Soul Master Alliance was that it could unite all the Soul Masters in the Heaven Do Empire and advance and retreat together. Hundreds of Soul Dolua and thousands of Soul Sages. This force of Soul Masters was extremely terrifying. If they could truly unite, even the Martial Spirit Alliance would have to think twice. Unfortunately, the Martial Spirit Alliance didn't give them the time. Although Ning Fengji was trying his best to deal with it, the results were quite low. Previously, Bibi Dong thought that the Martial Spirit Alliance should be able to rope in some of the southern forces of the Empire. After all, these forces were closer to their Martial Spirit city, and those forces in the north should be difficult to rope in. But in reality, the situation wasn't so simple. As more and more forces persuaded by the Martial Spirit Alliance, the forces on Ning Fengji's side would only decrease. And when the strength of both sides expanded to a certain extent, the remaining people would be afraid. There was no need to take the initiative to persuade them, they would naturally leave the Martial Spirit Alliance. So in the end, unless Ning Fengji could use some more forceful means, such as roping in the Marvel family. Otherwise, the number of people in this alliance would only decrease. Lin Feng didn't think so much. Otherwise, he would have made a trip to Heaven Do City first. After all, this would make the Martial Spirit Alliance even more fearful. However, Lin Feng's thoughts weren't wrong. In fact, it was even simpler. As long as the Marvel family continued to exist, the Martial Spirit Alliance would be fearful. And this fear would be even deeper. After all, the Marvel family had always been in the dark and hadn't displayed its full strength on the surface. And the unknown was what people feared the most. Today was already the 65th day since Lin Feng began to launch sneak attacks everywhere in the Heaven Do Empire. If it was as usual, Lin Feng would run to the next city after launching a sneak attack. But this time, he wasn't in a hurry to leave. Because at the edge of a forest, he saw a rather special town. When he passed by this place, he felt a trace of abnormality. The killing intent was very strong. After observing for a while, Lin Feng was sure that this should be the entrance to the massacre city. Lin Feng walked around a few times and found that there were quite a few towns like this, which made him even more certain of his guess. The City of Slaughter was a good place. There were no rules inside, and life and death were on the line. The soul masters inside had their soul power suppressed, and some ordinary people who had undergone devilish training could even kill soul kings. Soul sages weren't even a match for some of the people who possessed special technique. After all, in the Massacre City, without the support of soul power and soul rings, the only advantage a soul master had was the addition of the martial soul itself. And the strength of a soul master mainly came from soul power and soul rings. With only the addition of the martial soul, a low-level soul master was no different from an ordinary person. There would only be a difference between rank 50 and 60 soul masters, and at the soul sage level, this difference would be obvious. Therefore, in the city of Massacre, some ordinary people with unique skills could live very comfortably. Of course, there were even more ordinary people who had committed crimes and wanted to escape punishment. Their only way to survive was to struggle at death's door in the Massacre City. Lin Feng was still a little curious about this kind of place. He wanted to go in and see how the City of Slaughter sealed his soul power. Or rather, Lin Feng wanted to see if the Massacre City could seal his soul power? This place seemed to be the place where the Azura god became a god, and the soul power of a soul master was sealed because of the power of a god. The power of the system and the power of a god, which one was stronger? Lin Feng was very curious, and through this point Lin Feng could also make a plan for his future path. If the system was stronger, he wouldn't have to care too much about the inheritance of a god. After all, the system's level was definitely higher than the god of the Dolo world. He only needed to farm experience. And if the system couldn't even deal with the power of a god, then Lin Feng would need to plan carefully how to obtain a powerful god position. Of course, in Lin Feng's opinion, the system's level was definitely higher than the god of the Dolo world. At this moment, this test was more to calm Lin Feng's heart. Thinking about it, Lin Feng summoned a doppelganger, and then let the doppelganger walk straight towards a small town. He already said that it was a test, so his main body naturally wouldn't take the risk. His doppelganger went to see the situation. According to the response, the doppelganger directly walked into a tavern. The dense killing intent came from this tavern. Although it was daytime now, the atmosphere in the town was still a little cold and dark. Walking into the tavern, Lin Feng felt even deeper. The tavern's decorations were all pure black, which looked very strange. At this time, there weren't many people in the tavern, only about 30% of them. They were scattered, and it was very quiet. The air inside was very turbid. Lin Feng frowned slightly after entering. He was dressed casually. Even if it was a doppelganger, his face was incomparably handsome. After entering the tavern, he immediately attracted the attention of almost everyone. However, most of these people just casually glanced at him. Only a small number of people showed an interested expression. Lin Feng didn't care about these. He sensed the entrance of the Massacre City and was walking straight there. Seeing this, a waiter in black said indifferently, "Only by accepting the test can you obtain the qualifications to enter the Massacre City. Violating the rules is courting death." There were many ways to enter the Massacre City. Some would be actively let in, while others required a test. If one wanted to force their way in, they would need to pass the test of the law enforcement team. In the original work, Tang San forced his way in, then defeated a member of the law enforcement team, and finally obtained the qualifications. At this time, most of the people in the tavern were waiting for the test to obtain the qualifications to enter. And these waiters were considered the officials of the Massacre City. They were specially assigned to give these people the test. If they passed, they would be led into the Massacre City and obtain the qualifications to live there. At this time, Lin Feng was stopped, but he didn't care at all. He didn't even look at the waiter. The latter's expression didn't change, but his voice was a notch louder. "Causing trouble in the Massacre City? Are you courting death?" Not far away, the people in the tavern also looked like they were watching a show. They had never seen anyone who came to the Massacre City to cause trouble had a good ending. Today there would be a good show to watch. However, Lin Feng still didn't stop, and he was even getting closer to the entrance. That waiter was stunned, then he smiled cruelly. Where did this fool come from? Die. As his voice fell, his right hand pulled out an unusually sharp short sword from nowhere and stabbed straight at Lin Feng. That speed was fast and accurate, and there was even soul power surging from his body. He was actually a soul ancestor. This sudden attack was extremely tricky, and Lin Feng hadn't activated his martial soul yet. Even a soul king would be seriously injured. Just as everyone was thinking about this, Lin Feng raised his hand slightly, and the waiter who was about to attack him froze on the spot. Everyone was stunned. Why was there no sound? The other waiters were also stunned. Why did he stop there? What did that guy do? At this time, everyone had a doubt in their hearts. What happened? But in the next moment, they were all stunned. This was because the waiter had fallen to the ground and broken into several pieces. How is this possible? How did he do it? Everyone was shocked. They couldn't understand what had just happened. At this time, Lin Feng had already arrived in front of the passage. Chapter 397. The passage to the massacre city was not blatantly placed in front of you, but behind a wall. Lin Feng could see that this was a secret door, and there must be a place to open it. However, he did not go through so much trouble. While everyone was shocked by the sudden death of the waiter, he punched out and shattered the secret door, revealing the deep passage behind it. It's the entrance to the massacre city. The entrance is there. After seeing the entrance, the eyes of the people in the tavern lit up. If it was in the past, once the entrance appeared, they would definitely rush in without caring about anything else. But now, the waiter had died tragically in front of them, and they did not even know how he died. Lin Feng's killing method was too strange. With just a few moves, a person was gone. They were not stupid, and no one dared to go up and test anything. Moreover, that punch just now was too terrifying. Such a big wall was smashed open with a single punch. Because of Lin Feng's deterrence, they all stopped in their tracks and did not dare to rush forward. In fact, when Lin Feng killed the waiter just now, it was just the 1000G ruler turning into a few thin threads, and then instantly passing through the waiter's body. Because of the light, no one saw clearly, so it looked like he waved his hand, and then the waiter was gone. And this kind of unknown method was too terrifying. Ignoring the other people in the tavern, Lin Feng directly walked towards the entrance. This was a long passage that extended downwards diagonally, and one could not see the end of it at a glance. Cold winds kept blowing out from the depths of the cave. It was as if there were ghosts screaming inside. Those who were timid would probably scream out in fright. However, this was nothing to Lin Feng, and he quietly walked forward. Behind him, the people who were originally in the tavern followed in, but they did not dare to get too close, and only dared to stay far away. Regarding this, Lin Feng did not care. They were just a bunch of weaklings, and he could suppress them with a flip of his hand. After walking for about 1,000 meters, Lin Feng suddenly stopped in his tracks, because in front of him, there was a thin line that could not be seen. He could feel that as long as he crossed this line, he would officially enter the territory of the City of Massacre, and his soul power would be sealed. Lin Feng first observed it carefully, wanting to find something from it, but in the end, he found nothing. Following that, Lin Feng used his soul power to probe forward and discovered that as long as his soul power crossed that line, it would instantly disappear. As for the principle behind it, Lin Feng had no idea. After all, it was something related to God. It was too difficult for him to see through the power structure. Then, without any hesitation, he took the first step. This time, he came here to test the strength of the rule power in the City of Slaughter. There was no point in him observing here. With that thought in mind, Lin Feng stepped into the thin line. In the next second, An inexplicable force wrapped around Lin Feng, wanting to seal all the soul power in his body. His soul skills and whatnot would also be sealed. However, it was unknown if it was because Lin Feng's doppelganger was strange or because of the system, but this force circled around his body and then disappeared. That's right, it suddenly disappeared, as if it had never appeared. Lin Feng's doppelganger. Its strength was still there, and it was not weakened at all. This for a moment, Lin Feng froze on the spot again, and his expression was a little strange. In that moment, he was still a little confused and did not understand what was going on. But soon, he came back to his senses. It should be because of the uniqueness of his doppelganger. This sealing force sealed soul power and soul skills, but it did not seal the martial soul. As for Lin Feng's doppelganger, it could be considered a martial soul. It had nothing to do with soul skills, because it was a special characteristic of the martial soul. It did not consume any soul power, and it could exist forever. It also had nothing to do with soul power, because Lin Feng's doppelganger did not have any soul power in its body. The soul power in the doppelganger's body was transmitted remotely by Lin Feng through the special characteristic of the Thousand Trickery Ruler. The depletion of soul power during the Avengers League competition was all an act. As long as the main body did not cut off the supply of soul power, his doppelganger's soul power was endless. It was probably because of this reason that Lin Feng's doppelganger was not affected by the rule power in the City of Slaughter. In fact, strictly speaking, Lin Feng's doppelganger could not even be considered a martial soul. This was because if this doppelganger left Lin Feng's sensing range, it would lose the control of Lin Feng's soul power and turn into a simple object. It would not last for long, and would dissipate very quickly. Unless he injected some soul power into it like he did with Qianrenshue's token. In any case, because of all these factors, the rule power in the City of Slaughter did not affect Lin Feng's doppelganger. Of course, Lin Feng could not rule out the possibility that the system was the reason. Perhaps his guesses were all wrong, and it was because of the system that he could avoid being affected by the rule power. The way to test this was very simple. Lin Feng's main body, which was outside, directly summoned his doppelganger. Lin Feng's eighth soul ring shone slightly, and in the next second, he switched places with his doppelganger inside the City of Slaughter. Lin Feng's test was very simple. He wanted his main body to come over and feel to see if it was sealed. Anyway, it was at the edge of the rule power's influence. Even if it was sealed, Lin Feng could just retreat. After that, he could teleport away, or let his doppelganger and his main body switch places. In any case, his safety was guaranteed. After teleporting over, that inexplicable force immediately attacked Lin Feng's body. Very soon, Lin Feng's face lit up with joy. This was because he realized that the rule power in the City of Slaughter was the same as the doppelganger's and was ineffective against him. If that was the case, it was because of his system that he was immune to this kind of seal. This also meant that Lin Feng's system was stronger than the rule power. Of course, it shouldn't be too ridiculously strong. Otherwise, his system's level should be higher than the continent of Dolu. Therefore, in summary, Dolua's world rules, system rules, God's rules. The reason why the system's rules were stronger than the God's rules was that this seal power was ineffective against Lin Feng. The reason why the world's rules were stronger than the system's rules was because of his soul power rank. At this moment, Lin Feng's experience points were unable to directly increase his soul power rank. He needed to obtain a soul ring. Otherwise, if the system's rules were stronger, Lin Feng's experience points would be invincible. In this case, Lin Feng estimated that because of the world's rules, it should be very difficult for the gods to descend. Even if they did, they shouldn't be able to fully display their strength. These gods could only use the sealing of the Dolua's world, which was the power that had just reached rank 100. Any higher and they would be restricted by the rules. This was a good thing. It meant that as long as Lin Feng's soul ring broke through 1,000,000 years in the future, he could really do whatever he wanted in the continent of Dolu. While thinking about this, Lin Feng casually placed a small doppelganger that was injected with soul power outside the rule line. It was the kind that was embedded in a stone and could be used as a teleportation point. Not only did he place it here, but the doppelganger also placed some outside the town. When he entered the city of Slaughter, he would place some at regular intervals. This way, if things got out of hand, he could run whenever he wanted to. That's right, Lin Feng was going to play around in the city of Slaughter. On one hand, he was going to see if Tang San was inside, and on the other hand, he was going to farm for experience. This was a place with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There were many strong people inside, especially the King of Slaughter, who seemed to be Tang San's great-grandfather. His name seemed to be Tang Chen, a rank 99 peerless Dolu. His mind was a little unclear at this time. If Lin Feng fought with him, he should be able to earn a lot of experience. Swish! Lin Feng's doppelganger teleported in and then merged with Lin Feng's main body. At this time, Lin Feng was going to enter the city of Slaughter. Of course, he wouldn't leave his doppelganger outside. Now that his doppelganger had fully recovered and his strength had reached its peak state, if he fought with his main body, he shouldn't be killed instantly. After all, this guy's mind was a little unclear and he wouldn't kill him as soon as he came, so Lin Feng would definitely have a chance to escape. With that thought, Lin Feng also began to walk forward. He had only taken a few steps when a very cold voice suddenly sounded in front of him from all directions. Welcome to the city of Slaughter. This is a world full of slaughter. Here, as long as you are strong enough, you can get everything you want. The premise is that you have to be alive to enjoy it. Hearing this, Lin Feng's expression didn't change. He continued to walk forward and finally walked out of the tunnel. Previously, the tunnel was very dark. Now, there was a bright white light in front of him. Ordinary people would need some time to adapt to this difference in light, but Lin Feng wasn't affected at all. His eyes were very bright. There were 101 people in front of him. Lin Feng knew that they should be the patrol team outside the city of Slaughter. Everyone was wearing black armor, and their faces were covered by black helmets, only revealing a pair of eyes. At this time, all 101 people were staring at Lin Feng, giving him a huge pressure, especially the leader. He was sitting on a tall warhorse and had a strong aura. You violated the rules. A low and hoarse voice sounded from the leader's mouth. He stared at Lin Feng, his eyes full of indifference. Lin Feng didn't answer. Instead, he looked behind the 101 people. It was a pure black city. The city walls were black, and the gate was also black. Through the open gate, Lin Feng could see that the houses in the city were also black. It seemed that the main color of the city of Slaughter was black. At the same time, it was the color of blood after it had settled. Above the city there was a purple moon. The light wasn't very bright, but it shone on the city of Slaughter, giving people a very dark and terrifying feeling. Seeing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but complain in his heart. If the purple moon was replaced with colorful rotating lights, it would feel like a karaoke. Of course, it was just a thought. Lin Feng couldn't really turn this place into a karaoke. Right from afar, Lin Feng could smell the strong smell of blood in the city, but he wasn't afraid at all. He was only looking forward to the experience points. So many people died here every day. Soul sages, soul doloa, and so on would die in a year. If they were killed by Lin Feng, how much experience points would he get? After all, the experience points gained from killing a soul master were much higher than from fighting. This wasn't Lin Feng being cold-blooded. Just as the original work said, no one who could come to the city of Slaughter didn't deserve to die. If they didn't have a few lives in their hands, they didn't deserve to come here. If Lin Feng killed them, he wouldn't have any burden in his heart. And for the past year, The outside world had said that the Marvel family only sparred and didn't kill. Was that really the case? Of course not. It was just that the news didn't spread out. After all, those who knew were already dead. In total, Lin Feng had killed hundreds of people in this year. Among them were soul masters and ordinary people. Without exception, everyone had a way to die. Some people wanted to kill him, some were evil soul masters, and some were killing people. There were all kinds of people. After all, he had met too many people. Roughly estimating, there should be close to 10 million people. Out of so many people, only 100 or so deserved to die. In fact, it was considered very little. How dare you ignore me, the Terror Knight, Scott? Are you courting death? Just as Lin Feng was thinking about this, the black armored knight spoke again with a trace of anger in his voice. Hearing this, Lin Feng looked at Scott in the eye. Then he said, "So what if I broke the rules?" Lin Feng wasn't too arrogant. That would easily attract attention, so he wanted to take it slow. What he wanted to do was to treat the city of Slaughter like a city and spend some time to find out the strength of the people inside. Then, he would find an opportunity to shoot it and then escape. Of course, because of the uniqueness of the city of Slaughter, Lin Feng naturally couldn't do it as fast as a city in the outside world. He needed to spend more time to explore, and at the same time, he needed more time to make preparations. If you want to enter the city of Slaughter, you must be punished. Fight with me. As long as you can defeat me, you will be qualified to enter the city of Slaughter. If you fail, then only death awaits. Scott rode 2 steps forward on his warhorse, his voice carrying a trace of killing intent. As he spoke, Scott slowly raised the knight's spear in his hand. At the same time, he waved his hand, and the surrounding black-armored warriors retreated, leaving a space for them. "Die!" Scott shouted. His legs clamped together, and his warhorse charged straight towards Lin Feng. At this moment, faint black smoke came out of Scott's body. A cold, killing intent was emitted, causing people to tremble in fear. On the surface, it looked very imposing. However, Lin Feng knew that this was only a trick used to deal with ordinary people. He used his killing intent to intimidate and then kill. In a head-on battle, this killing intent could also be used to suppress the opponent. However, Lin Feng knew that the Real God of Death was able to restrain all his killing intent. When you died, you would realize that you had been killed. Currently, no one in the Doloa continent could reach this level, not even Lin Feng. Chapter 398. In the original work, both Tang Hao and Bibi Dong had been given the title of God of Slaughter. However, in Lin Feng's opinion, it was just a facade. Was the more murderous the title of God of Slaughter? What a laughable thought. It was just like money. So what if the 7 Treasures Glazed sect was the wealthiest sect in the continent? If the Snowy Knight Emperor wanted to destroy the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, he could do so with a single word. An army of millions was marching toward the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. Unless one was a god, even a titled battle pet warrior like Doloa would be no match for that army of steel. Of course, the two sides were in a mutually beneficial relationship. That kind of thing would never happen. It was just Lin Feng's metaphor. What he was trying to say was that one had to look beyond the surface to see the essence of something. If one could not see the essence of something, they would be like a frog at the bottom of a well for the rest of their lives. They would not be able to see how vast the outside world was. While Lin Feng was thinking about that, Scott had already attacked with his spear. The spear was extremely fast and carried with it a surging murderous aura. It was as if it was going to destroy everything in front of it. Is he stupid? Why isn't he dodging? Seeing that Lin Feng didn't move, a trace of doubt flashed in Scott's mind. However, he did not stop moving. Instead, the tip of his spear sped up and stabbed toward Lin Feng's chest. In that moment of crisis, Lin Feng moved. He easily dodged the shot, and at the same time, he brazenly attacked with a punch at Scott. He was so fast that Scott did not even have time to react before he lost sight of Lin Feng. Bang! With a muffled sound, Lin Feng's fist landed on Scott's body. It was an ordinary punch, but it contained a terrifying force. Scott felt as if his stomach had been hit by a heavy hammer, and he was sent flying. Scott spat out a mouthful of blood while he was still in the air. Then, he fell to the ground about 30 meters away, unable to move. The spear in his hand was thrown out of his hand and fell to the ground with a clank. His warhorse was still charging forward. It paused for a few seconds before it realized that its master had been sent flying. This scene stunned the surrounding black-armored warriors. In the tunnel not far behind them, the people who were following them also had their mouths wide open. With just one strike, Scott was almost instantly killed. One had to know that this was the patrol captain of the City of Slaughter, Scott, who was known as the Terror Knight. In the small town outside, the waiters would talk about this person. It was rumored that even soul emperors had a high chance of dying in Scott's hands. Only soul sages could barely fight him to a draw. At this moment, Lin Feng actually sent him flying with a single punch, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. It was really too shocking. So, I'm qualified now? Lin Feng walked up to Scott, looking down at him as he said blandly. He had controlled his strength in that punch just now. At most, he would have severely injured this fellow, but he wouldn't have killed him. Of course, I'm qualified. Scott coughed twice, then quickly took out a black token from his arms and handed it over. This is your identification in the City of Slaughter. It represents your identity. After entering the city, there will be people at the city gate to receive you. Those people will tell you the situation in the City of Slaughter. The City of Slaughter was a place without rules. Strength was the only criterion, and the strong were respected. It was obvious that Lin Feng's one punch had convinced Scott. The latter was very respectful to him, and even addressed him as Sir. Lin Feng took the badge and glanced at it. He saw a skull carved on it, representing death. Below it was a number, 9529. It was obvious that this number didn't represent the number of people who entered the City of Slaughter. Hundreds of thousands of people died in the City of Slaughter every year. It was too ridiculous for him to have more than 9,000 people. Lin Feng guessed that this should represent the number of people who had broken the rules since the City of Slaughter was established, and even defeated the guards. Without thinking too much, Lin Feng glanced at the gate of the City of Massacre in front of him and strode towards it. Not long after he left, the group of people behind him also walked out. They wanted to be like Lin Feng and easily pass the test. However, when they faced the black-armored warriors, they were flustered because they couldn't use their soul power, causing them to lose. Many people were killed, and only a small portion of people ran away. The City of Slaughter's city gate was very big, and it was jet black. The words City of Slaughter hung at the top of the gate, and they were also jet black. In front of the gate, there were 2 rows of black-armored warriors standing on the left and right, giving off an extremely oppressive feeling. Lin Feng's expression was normal as he calmly walked towards the gate. Before he could pick up the token in his hand, a woman with a veil over her face walked out from behind the door. Speaking of veils, Lin Feng wasn't wearing a mask at this moment, but he had changed his appearance. After all, when walking outside, he had to hide himself well. This way, he would be very careful and not leave any flaws, and it would be safer. The City of Slaughter welcomes you, sir. The veiled woman's voice was very clear, and her body was also very graceful. She walked lightly and quickly arrived in front of Lin Feng. Please come in, sir. The woman made a gesture of invitation, appearing very respectful. Nodding, Lin Feng followed the woman inside. After entering the city, Lin Feng realized that there were blue-purple lights hanging on both sides of the road. Previously, when he looked from afar, he thought that the city was filled with darkness. Now, it seemed that it was because the lights were too dim that he was mistaken. There were many people in the city, but they all gave off the feeling of walking corpses. Lin Feng frowned as he looked at them. At this moment, the veiled woman said as she walked, "Respected sir, I am your guide. For 24 hours, I will answer all your questions. If you have anything you don't understand, you can ask me at any time. After 24 hours, you will officially become a member of the City of Slaughter. Give me a brief introduction of the City of Slaughter," Lin Feng said casually. Lin Feng actually didn't know much about the City of Slaughter. He had already forgotten a lot of the original story's plot. He only knew that there was a hellish slaughterhouse here, and then Tang San and Hu Liena were here. There was also the King of Slaughter, Tang Chen. As for the rest, he wasn't very clear. The veiled woman nodded and said, "All right, sir. Next, I will introduce you to the City of Slaughter." The City of Slaughter was opened up 1,000 years ago. Legend has it that a powerful soul master left behind a special territory after breaking through the shackles of 100 years. In the City of Slaughter, all soul skills and soul power of soul masters can't be used. People can only rely on their own strength to survive. And the rule here is that there are no rules. In the City of Slaughter, you can do anything. Even if a titled Dolua from the outside world comes here, his soul power and soul skills will be sealed, and he will become weak. Of course, the King of Slaughter is the strongest existence in the City of Slaughter. No one can challenge the majesty of the King of Slaughter. In the City of Slaughter, you can only enter, but not leave. There are specialized law enforcement team members in the city. The great King of Slaughter controls everything in the city. There are some true experts in the law enforcement team. They have all been given the ability to use soul power and soul skills by the King of Slaughter. The members are all experts on the same level as Soul Dolu. The captain is even a titled Dolu. Currently, no one can escape from their hands. Hearing these words, Lin Feng's face was calm. He quietly walked forward with the veiled woman. The veiled woman continued her introduction. "This is the outer city of the City of Slaughter. It's not the true City of Slaughter. The people here usually come here to struggle at death's door. They have to contribute 2 cups of Bloody Mary every month in exchange for a chance to live. Killing is not allowed in the outer city. Only the inner city is the true City of Slaughter. There are no rules. The inner city has a hellish slaughterhouse. Out of every 10 people who enter, only 1 can come out alive. Only the brave warriors who survive the hellish slaughterhouse are qualified to live in the inner city. Of course, danger comes with enjoyment. The things in the inner city are much better than those in the outer city. Take me to the inner city, Lin Feng said indifferently. This place was the territory of the King of Slaughter. He was a rank 99 soul master Dolu. His spiritual power must be very strong. Perhaps it could cover the entire city. Therefore, Lin Feng was very careful here. Unless he was in danger, he wouldn't use his spiritual power or soul skills. "Sir, this is your first time in the City of Slaughter. The inner city is very dangerous. I suggest you stay in the outer city for a while," the veiled woman kindly advised. Hearing this, Lin Feng didn't say anything. He only tilted his head and glanced at her. However, the veiled woman panicked. She hurriedly said, "I've said too much. Please follow me." In fact, Lin Feng's gaze was very calm. He didn't release any aura. However, the woman was very flustered. She only dared to follow his instructions. "You can leave after we reach the inner city," Lin Feng continued. "This." The woman was stunned for a moment. Then, she nodded and said, "Yes." She had been in the City of Slaughter for so long, but this was the first time she met someone like Lin Feng. He actually wanted to go to the inner city without saying anything. Furthermore, he even said that he didn't need any protection. It was too strange. However, she also knew that those who could pass Scott's test were strong. Since this person was so confident, he must be very strong. Just like this, the veiled woman quickly brought Lin Feng to the inner city. The city of Slaughter was very big. It was comparable to Soto City. The two of them walked for about an hour before they reached the gate of the inner city. Along the way, because of the veiled woman, no one dared to disturb them. The gate of the inner city wasn't smaller than the outer city. The gate was also wide open. Compared to the outer city, there were 2 fewer rows of black-armored warriors. The veiled woman explained, the inner city doesn't need guards. As long as people from the outer city dare to enter, they can enter at any time. However, their lives won't be guaranteed after entering. Got it. Lin Feng waved his hand. You can leave now. Hearing this, the veiled woman advised again, you've just arrived at the city of Slaughter. The inner city is extremely dangerous. I really suggest that you live in the outer city for a few days. After you've adapted to the situation, it won't be too late to enter the inner city. Thank you for your kindness. Lin Feng smiled. Then, he didn't say anything else and walked straight to the inner city. He used his actions to express his thoughts. Seeing this, the veiled woman shook her head. Since Lin Feng had made his choice, then let him be. After all, it had nothing to do with her. Thinking about this, she also left. On the other hand, Lin Feng strode into the inner city. It had to be said that the inner city was much more chaotic than the outer city. Although the people in the outer city were walking corpses, the security was still good. At most, they would fight, but their lives were not in danger. On the other hand, it was different in the inner city. There were battles, disputes, excited laughter, painful shouts, and many blood-curdling screams that caused one's hair to stand on end entered one's ears. There were many more people in the inner city than the outer city. It was extremely luxurious and crazy. The colors were also much brighter. As far as the eye could see, there were killings, daylight debauchery, cheating, beating, etc. All sorts of ridiculous things were happening. On one side, 4 people were ganging up on a young man. With one slash, the man's arm was chopped off. Then, with a few more slashes, the young man was quickly dismembered. Then, the 4 people did not stop. Instead, they started to kill each other. It was extremely crazy. These people's eyes were all blood-red, and they had all gone mad. Lin Feng knew that this was because of the City of Slaughter's influence. That was why people became bloodthirsty. The longer you stayed in this damned place, the more likely you were to become crazy. There was a special poison in the air. Every time you breathed, you would absorb a little bit of it. There was also a little bit of it in Bloody Mary. Actually, there wasn't much poison absorbed in a day. However, as time passed, there would be a lot of poison. After a year, ordinary people would probably go completely crazy. They would become extremely bloodthirsty and deranged. As for Lin Feng, he had already felt this poison when he first entered the City of Slaughter. However, the immeasurable flower martial spirit made him invulnerable to all poisons. This small amount of poison was unable to enter Lin Feng's body. Therefore, he did not panic at all. At this moment, he was slowly walking in the inner city. Kid, are you new? He had only taken a few steps when someone came up to him. Previously, when he was in the outer city, there were many people who had their eyes on a handsome guy like Lin Feng. However, at that time, there was a masked woman following him, so no one dared to disturb him. Now that he had entered the inner city, this situation would only worsen. Especially when there was no masked woman accompanying him, there were no rules in the inner city. If you don't want to die, scram. Lin Feng did not stop and continued to walk forward. Kid, you're very arrogant. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. That person was originally a distance away from Lin Feng. At this moment, he directly approached him. This was a burly man. He held a large saber in his hand and directly slashed at Lin Feng. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. The corners of Lin Feng's mouth curled up slightly as he repeated the burly man's words. At the same time, Lin Feng raised his right hand. A dagger appeared out of thin air and shot straight at the burly man's heart. Not good. The burly man was shocked and wanted to block with his saber. However, Lin Feng's speed was too fast. When the burly man reacted, he felt a chill in his chest. In the next second, he fell to the ground and died an unnatural death. His heart was directly pierced through. Before he died, his hand was still in a defensive position. His eyes were filled with disbelief and a trace of regret. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. How is this possible? The surrounding people were all shocked. Originally, they thought that Lin Feng was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Who knew that he was a ferocious tiger that ate people? He killed a person in an instant. Many people did not even see how he killed him. It was simply too shocking. Chapter 399. Lin Feng glanced at the crowd. He didn't care about the corpses in front of him and stepped over them. The big man's death was just a small interlude for Lin Feng. He didn't care at all. As for the others, they were all afraid of Lin Feng because of this quick and clean kill. Although they were crazy and bloodthirsty, they were not stupid. Lin Feng was so strong that they would die if they went up against him. Just like this, Lin Feng easily crossed the street. However, the people on the next street didn't see the scene just now. Someone else came to provoke him. Lin Feng only had one strategy, and that was to kill. Lin Feng was like an emotionless killer. His 1,000-trick ruler turned into a dagger and killed the people who came to attack him one by one. Lin Feng didn't know how many people he killed along the way from the inner city gate to the inner city. At first, Lin Feng only killed the people who attacked him. Later, he also killed those who provoked him. In the end, as long as someone wanted to come close, he would throw out a dagger. There was no other way. The people in the massacre city had some problems with their brains. They were extremely bloodthirsty and easily angered. Lin Feng was dressed very well. Wherever he went, he was the center of attention. That was why so many people wanted to attack him. After about half an hour, Lin Feng stopped, because he saw an acquaintance in front of him. Hulaina, one of the golden generation of the martial spirit palace. She was wearing black tights, which showed off her perfect figure. Her neat long hair was tied with a red string and was slightly messy behind her back. Her eyes were slightly vigilant as she scanned the surroundings. She was holding a short sword that was less than half a meter long. It was shining with a cold light, and a drop of blood quietly slid down. On the ground in front of her, 10 corpses were lying on the ground. Blood flowed everywhere. Obviously, there was a fight here. These 10 people wanted to sneak attack Hulaina, but they were killed instead. At this time, Hulaina was unharmed. It was just that her stamina didn't seem to be much. She probably just came out of the hell-killing field. There were many onlookers around, but no one dared to take a step forward. Hulaina's title as the Hell's emissary wasn't just for show. The 3 of them had found a good opportunity to wait for Hulaina to finish off her bitter battle. They wanted to ambush and kill her. This kind of thing was very common. After all, in the inner city, everyone had to go to the Hell slaughterhouse. As for those experts, when they came to participate in the slaughterhouse, they would usually maintain a good state. Under such circumstances, it would be very difficult to kill them. If they did, they would basically be courting death. Therefore, many people in the city would take advantage of their weakness to kill them. Who would have thought that Hulaina was stronger than they had imagined? She clearly looked weak, but who would have thought that after the 10 of them had agreed to launch a sneak attack, they would still be the ones to die? In fact, Hulaina's physical strength was already very low at this time. If another 10 people came, she would really be in danger. However, the surrounding people were probably intimidated, and no one dared to come forward to die. Hulaina had a calm expression on her face as she shook off the blood on her short sword. She glanced at the crowd and walked to the side. At this time, Hulaina couldn't show her weak state. Otherwise, she would definitely not be able to walk back alive. Hulaina was in danger. Lin Feng caught a glimpse of a group of people squatting at the corner of her path. There weren't many people, only 3 or 4 of them. However, at this time, Hulaina's attention was focused on her surroundings, guarding against anyone who would ambush her from behind. As for the corner in front, she really hadn't noticed anyone ambushing her. Perhaps these people wouldn't be able to kill Hulaina under their sneak attack, but she would definitely be injured in the end. In the slaughterhouse, as long as you were injured, you wouldn't be far from death. At that time, Hulaina didn't have a powerful hidden weapon like Tang San's. With only a short sword, she wouldn't be able to survive. Mine. It's all mine. Go to hell. It's obviously mine. At this time, the surrounding people had all gathered around the 10 corpses that had just been killed. They were all sharing the blood of those people. They were even fighting and screaming for it. The scene was extremely chaotic. Lin Feng didn't care about these and walked towards Hulaina. How should he put it? Hulaina's martial soul was quite strange. She used her powerful spiritual power to create illusions and confuse others. This kind of martial soul skill, and the way to use spiritual power had some research value. At least for now, Lin Feng hadn't seen a second martial soul as strange as Hulaina. It could even be said that Hulaina's martial soul was a little stronger than a top-grade martial soul in a sense. It was probably because of this that Bibi Dong focused on cultivating Hulaina. If possible, Lin Feng would save her. Cough cough. It wasn't because Hulaina was good-looking and had a good figure. It was mainly because Lin Feng wanted to study her martial soul. Speaking of which, Hulaina still had Lin Feng's 1000G ruler tracker on her. He had thought about it at the beginning. When Hulaina's strength became a little stronger, Lin Feng would capture her and study her. Just as he was thinking about this, Hulaina's people also walked to the corner. In the next second, the people who were sneak attacking her moved. Large blades and long swords all slashed and stabbed towards Hulaina, sealing off all her escape routes. For a moment, Hulaina was in a life and death crisis. However, her reaction was also very fast. Under this sure-kill attack, her brain worked quickly. Her body twisted at an incredible angle, and she stabbed towards the northeast with her short sword. The one who attacked was a thin and weak middle-aged man. Hulaina knew him. He was a guy with a 20-plus win streak in the killing field. He was extremely strong. Among the 4 people, he should be the strongest, so the first person Hulaina wanted to kill was him. In a flash, Hulaina and the 4 people exchanged a move. In one move, Hulaina and the guy with a 20-plus win streak were injured, while the remaining 3 people were unscathed. Of course, a well-planned assassination couldn't be done in one move. The 4 people attacked again and attacked Hulaina together. In just a few seconds, the 5 of them attacked crazily, and Hulaina's stamina was quickly depleted. She was very clear that if she fought with her life, she would be severely injured even if she killed these 4 people. Her stamina would also be depleted, and her chances of escaping weren't high. However, if she didn't fight with her life, she would die now. Therefore, she had to fight with her life. In the blink of an eye, the few of them exchanged a few more moves. Hulaina paid the price of a cut on her arm and killed 2 of them. Following this, her attacks became even more ferocious. Finally, she paid the price of a cut on her abdomen to kill all 4 of them. During this period, Lin Feng was watching from one side. He didn't immediately make a move. After all, he knew that Hulaina wasn't going to die yet. He would only make a move at a moment of life and death. Right now, Hulaina didn't dare to intimidate them anymore after killing them. She was very weak, and she was also severely injured. The cut on her abdomen was fatal. She took out a medicine bottle from her soul tool and immediately swallowed the special medicine inside. Although this medicine was powerful, it was still much weaker than a healing-type soul master's. At this moment, it could only barely stop her bleeding and keep her alive. She needed to recuperate immediately. Furthermore, she couldn't use martial arts in the near future. Otherwise, her life would be in danger. Therefore, after Hulaina ate the medicine, she immediately ran towards a nearby house. She wanted to find an opportunity to leave. However, because of the fighting just now, there were many people surrounding Hulaina. When they saw that she wanted to leave, they faintly looked like they were going to attack her. Hulaina forced herself to calm down and quickly ran towards a big house at the side. The Hellbringer is severely injured and on the verge of death. This is a good opportunity to kill her. Everyone, let's attack together. Suddenly, someone shouted from the crowd. This was like a signal. The people nearby immediately moved and charged towards Hulaina. Hulaina rushed into the house, and these people also rushed in. Seeing this, Lin Feng smiled and followed. Kill her. As long as we kill her, we won't meet her again when we enter the Hellbringer's slaughterhouse. That's right. As long as we kill her, we can live. When Lin Feng came in, he heard these two sentences. The first sentence was still okay. In any case, there was a logical connection. However, what the hell was with the second sentence? Whether Hulaina died or not, it didn't have much to do with whether he lived or not. Although he was cursing in his heart, Lin Feng also knew that the people in the slaughterhouse were not normal. It was reasonable for them to say such illogical things. Very quickly, Lin Feng did not have time to think about these things. Because in front of him, it seemed that Hulaina ran too quickly and entered a dead end. A group of people surrounded her. She could not escape in time and could only fight to the death. The wounds on her body that had been treated with great difficulty opened up again. However, her physical strength was no longer enough. Seeing that more and more people were coming, she was already in despair. Behind her was a dead end. In front of her were dozens of people who were in a killing frenzy. She was dead meat. It was time to attack. Seeing this, Lin Feng said to himself in his heart. In the next second, the dagger formed by the 1,000 ruler appeared in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the dagger shot out and flew toward the crowd. At this moment, the dagger was like a living thing under Lin Feng's control. It was extremely agile. Accompanied by a stream of light, the dagger pierced through the back of these people and came out of their chests. One after another, they were all killed in one hit. Some of them were standing neatly in rows. Lin Feng's dagger pierced through several people at a time. More than 50 people, in just 3 breaths, all of them were hit. The originally shouting voices suddenly quieted down. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of corpses falling to the ground was heard one after another. In a few seconds, more than 50 people fell to the ground. At the same time, Lin Feng's dagger disappeared. This scene was as if Yandu from the Guardian of the Galaxy whistled. The whistling arrow at his waist danced in the air and killed all the enemies around him. At this moment, the whole room was only left with the sound of Hulaina's sword waving in despair. Slowly, the sound of Hulaina's sword waving also stopped. Where are the enemies? Looking at the dozens of people falling in front of her, Hulaina was a little confused. Just a second ago, she was still in a situation where she was bound to die. How did the next second all the people who wanted to kill her fall? No, there was still one not far away, and he was walking toward her. Diana immediately tightened the grip on the sword in her hand and forced herself to use the last bit of strength in her body to kill this guy. And the last one left was of course Lin Feng. He killed all the people and saved Hulaina. Of course, he didn't kill them for nothing. He had to collect interest. As for what interest was, of course, he had to study it. At this time in the massacre city, soul power and soul skills were sealed. Hulaina could only use the most basic martial soul. And this situation was the best opportunity for Lin Feng to study Hu Lai's martial soul. Of course, he wouldn't let it go. Hu Lai, is this how you treat your savior? Lin Feng came to a position 10 steps in front of Hu Lai and chuckled. You know me. Hu Lai was stunned and hurriedly asked, Who are you? When she left just now, Hu Lai had been paying attention to the people behind her. She had also seen Lin Feng. No matter how she looked at him, he was the kind of person who didn't fit in with the massacre city. Just like that guy called the Azura King. No. This person was even more powerful than the Azura King. He just stood there, and the chi and blood in the massacre city seemed to be deliberately avoiding him. Clearly, the surroundings were filled with blood mist, but Lin Feng's body was still so spotless. It was so clean that it made people doubt the surrounding environment. He was also very handsome, especially that pair of eyes. They were as bright as the stars in the sky. Just a glance was enough to make people intoxicated. Lin Feng's unique temperament made Hu Lai feel a little dazed. In fact, previously, if it wasn't for her exhaustion, she would have specially looked for Lin Feng. She didn't expect that she would be saved by Lin Feng now. Who I am is not important. What's important is that, from now on, you owe me a life. Lin Feng's eyes had a hint of playfulness. There's no such thing as owing a life in the massacre city. If you want my life, then come and take it. Hu Lai was unyielding and held the sword in her hand horizontally. However, at this time, she was already exhausted. Just now, she had a big battle, and the wounds on her body had split open again. She was about to become a bloody person. Okay. Then Before Lin Feng could finish speaking, Hu Lai suddenly fainted on the ground. Lin Feng. Hu Lai had lost too much blood just now. She was nervous and confused. For a moment, she forgot to take her medicine and directly fainted. In fact, if it was someone else here, Hu Lai definitely wouldn't have fainted. However, the person here was Lin Feng. Because of his dense life force, he gave people a sense of intimacy. Although Hu Lai was wary of Lin Feng, it wasn't because of her life force. However, she wasn't worried about her life. Instead, it was because Lin Feng knew her name, which made her a little cautious. Therefore, under such circumstances, her mind relaxed and she fainted. Regarding this, Lin Feng was quite speechless. At this moment, Hu Lai's wounds were still bleeding, and she had fainted. If he didn't care about her, she would definitely die within half an hour. Lin Feng wouldn't just let her die, right? Otherwise, he would have saved her for nothing. Ai. As he sighed, Lin Feng first gave Hu Lai some life force to keep her alive. Following this, he picked her up by the waist and walked towards the room. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.